Hey everyone, welcome to the Mind High podcast. This is Z, thanks for joining us. This week we have a lot of content that we just recently finished. Our first video is uploaded on YouTube. It's called A Short History of Our Beliefs. Check it out. It's about the idea of beliefs and where they come from and why do we believe the things that we believe. Look up the Mind High podcast on YouTube. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel because we have a lot more stuff like that in the pipeline and we'll be coming to you guys very shortly. That's not all though. We also finished a very cool video from an excerpt from this very podcast, which goes into the opening scene from the 1997 movie Contact, and it's this fantastic scene of the camera just zooming out from the Earth and then beyond the planets, then going beyond our solar system and then the galaxies, and it just makes you feel so small in the vastness of the universe. That video is also on the Mind High podcast channel on YouTube, so check that out. And then today, me, myself, Ali, Shaz, and Hasban talk about DMT, the chance of life existing elsewhere in the universe, the whole nationalism versus globalism topic that's everywhere right now, and of course religion. We just can't get away from that topic. That's it guys, let's jump right in.
So the theory right now is like as you're dying, I guess it has to be a natural death, right? Not like if you were just killed in an accident or something, or so much DMT will be released. It has to be you probably just dying naturally.
So any form of death, I would think that is that one of the last things your brain does is releases DMTs, because that would be the part of the theory. And then
why would it have to do that?
Part of the theory, what? How so? Like, what's the point of that?
Yeah,
well, I was trying to figure out afterlife, right? So where that ties in. So one of the things that I read was, and that kind of just searching for how an afterlife could be. How could it be possible? So one of the things was that DMT gets released in your brain, and then, and just like if you were in a coma, or God forbid, when someone's in a coma, and they could be in a coma for 3 months, but there are many, many stories that these guys come out of comas and they say that they've been in a whole nother world, that they were living a life, and they've been in that life for 30, 40 years, crazy numbers, but they've been in a coma for like a year, for 6 months, and the one story that
that wouldn't be afterlife though. That would just be that your brain has created an alternate reality that you're in for X amount of time.
Exactly.
Afterlife would be where you physically leave your body and go somewhere into a different realm.
But afterlife could also just be a state of your brain. So that last moment with all that DMT being released, and if there is a tie with DMT and dreams, there are also dreams where you feel like you're wow, I felt like I was in there for a long time, but
right.
you were only knocked out for 15 minutes, whatever it requires, right? So what if DMT is released in your brain, and that last moments of your life, but you're in this DMT-induced alternate reality, it's creating your brain, and you're just there for like a super long time.
Or what?
And that's afterlife.
Another thing I was thinking, I was like, how people talk about you can see your whole life flash in front of you when you die? I'm wondering if that sounds hallucinogenic. That could be something related with DMT. If that happens,
right.
You see your entire life flash, and you have these illusions, and you live your life and see everything you've done.
Yeah.
Maybe that. I don't see what the evolutionary purpose of that would be, but.
No, I don't. I think it's just your brain gets rattled, right? So like, it just everything in terms of vision and sound, or anything that your brain can do is probably just rattled, and then you just are dizzy, nauseous, and you feel that there's a bright light or something.
Yeah.
I don't think it has anything to do. I think if you're dying, I don't think there's anything specific done through natural selection that everyone has to see a white light on their way out. I don't think that's true. I think in some cases that probably is true. But it depends on what's happening to your brain at that time.
Yeah, that's right.
But even then, if that theory is true, where it's so much DMT is released and the time for you at that moment stops, that 1 second to your brain is probably a year or 10 years. to me, that's still not afterlife. We're not still proving. We're still not proving there is such thing as afterlife. We're not proving, any of that. It's just because after you're dead and buried and your brain is decomposed. Where's your afterlife? Because your brain's the one that's generating it all. So it's not a true afterlife. For me, in general,
But it is interesting.
It's interesting how powerful our brains is to simulate something that where it can stop. It could take a second of your life and turn it into 10, 15, or 100, or maybe even 1,000 years. Let's say.
That's what I'm saying. What if your let's say DMT does come out, right, and you have this trip in your last second before you die? What if it turns into a longer time than your actual life that you lived?
There you go.
I was just, this is the most interesting part, right? So we all trip. We've all tried some kind of drug. But what most people say is that everybody has their own experience. But the most interesting thing about this article, it's mostly about lucid dreaming and what that has to do with DMT. But this is something I've heard before, so I thought I'd say it, is that people have consistently report that they've had the same contact with the same entities. So even people that thought they would see like fairies and stuff, and they thought they would see things that they like, they ended up seeing the same kind of spirits, aliens, and elves that everybody else saw. So the consistency in the experience is what's weird.
Could that consistency be that those images are something that they've all seen? Maybe they're watching Ancient Aliens and everyone has seen the same things, and that's why they're all triggered the same.
Yeah, or I'm thinking like before you do something like a DMT trip, are you gonna do some research on other people's experience and then read about it and then have that same?
That's a very good point. But even then, you can't control the experience. Even if you're reading about it, I feel like it's saying the entities are often said to be mischievous or playful, sometimes guiding, helping, or offering insights. And I've just heard Joe Rogan talk about this a lot. So. And he described the same experience, and I don't think anyone here has tried DMT, but it sounds like it's a next level game.
It is,
because they say you're going to another reality.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, I do remember I didn't do a lot of research before we tripped, right? Mm-hmm. So I do remember the second or third time when we were doing it, and I remember seeing Ali. And his head had turned into like a bug I had never seen. But then after coming out of it, I realized that there's a game called Jet Force Gemini.
Yeah.
Holy
I don't know
shit,
why.
I just brought so much memories.
I don't know why at that point I remembered that game. There's no way I was thinking of it, but my mind for some reason created that head and put it on Ali. And that was like the craziest hallucination I've seen of a person. He had a bug head at that point.
First time you were saying that.
Yeah.
While it was happening, you never said anything.
Yeah, it was,
That's pretty awesome, though.
Right.
I remember in the basement, and I loved tripping in your basement. It was just awesome. So the TV that you have mounted on your wall, all the wires under it became vines, and they were just like like a snake just going around, just moving.
Yeah.
And the TV itself, like everything felt biological. So when I looked up at the ceiling was going lower up. It was like breathing.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And then I looked at the floor, everything was moving. Oh my God, I love tripping.
Yeah, it's definitely an amazing like alter state of reality that you get to see, and it kind of shatters your experience as a human being. It's like there's no way, a word or way to describe it unless you truly experience it on your own. Like the life that we've been living, it completely changes. You see it through a different realm. It's like you're kind of putting on glasses and seeing a different Earth.
It definitely gives you whole another perspective, and it's so important to have that other perspective sometimes. And it really, any issues I was having in my life, and I love pondering about like my major issues, and then going on a trip and bringing it up in my brain, and just I can solve them instantly almost, just because it gives you a whole nother perspective to the problem. But
the key word is that it's really good to have sometimes. And I've realized that because when you're on a really incredible trip, everything is interesting. Yeah. It's so interesting that everything distracts you. I remember that time we were in your basement and we were tripping balls. Well, at least I was. And I remember you had some kind of music setup which blinks red or something, or has a red light. I don't know, maybe it was just one of your video game systems.
Okay.
And that one red light had me mesmerized.
Yeah.
Every piece of music that was playing, it was blinking and coming in and out with rhythm.
Yeah.
I know that wasn't really happening, but Like
Or
that's
is it
how
happening?
or maybe
or
it
it
is.
was happening and you were just appreciating something.
No, I'm
so
saying
simple.
sometimes
Yeah.
you see things. You know, so you see like you can see a carpet and like as we're sitting
Carpet
as we're sitting right now, like the world seems just like this. But as soon as you look down at a carpet, it has like it looks like an ocean. Like the whole carpet is doing like a cool wave dance.
Yeah.
You're like, is that always happening, or does it only happen while you're tripping? You know,
Which reality is
yeah, which
real?
reality
Well,
is
both of
real?
them real.
Well, that's a good point because Richard Feynman always says, like, I mean, that's a true fact now that everything is jiggling. He loves
Yeah.
saying that. Like, all the atoms are always moving around.
Yeah, there's nothing to
That's
still.
what real is.
Yeah.
But but it is a good thing that our mind filters all that information out. Because think
Be
about
too
it, how
much.
A lot of it's
it would be a
unnecessary.
lot. Yeah. I wouldn't say unnecessary for our survival. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Yeah, you don't need all that information.
Yeah.
But just to see that, it just kind of awesome. And like to take the walks at night, just to see like the whole community look like a set, if you will.
Turns into like 1080p, and you're like, it's like
Not
normal
even
life is
1080p,
720p.
It's like 4K.
Sorry.
Now think about that. Is it? I wonder about this. I think the world doesn't really turn 1080p. The more I think about it, I think it looks the same to me. I just appreciate it more, and
It's
I
more
make
detail.
it look beautiful. I'm like, man, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
It makes you
Man,
appreciate
this is
life.
nice. Yeah. So, but is it really changing? Is it getting more beautiful, or are
Or
you
your
just
perception just
yeah?
changes.
You're just perceiving it. Man, this is nice. It's like you're seeing something for the first time again
No,
and again.
your brain activity on it is amplified. It is more. Your brain is more active. So as you're walking, you're seeing and hearing. You are. I feel like you're hearing more than you normally would pay attention to. Everything your brain that's registering and doing, you can almost understand each transaction or each thing that's taking place in your brain. So even your pupils, I think, kind of open up and you let more
Dilate.
light in. And the more light you let in your eyes, the more detail in HD it gets. So the more, just like when you see like a 4K amazing video of like, aerial footages of like different parts of the world, it looks better than real life. If you go to Best Buy and they have these crazy footages of like HD footages of different like Europe or different aerial shots of like Asia or whatever, and when they're showing you these scenes, like you go outside and like reality does not look as good as your screens do, so it's kind of that type of experience.
But
where
it's also cinematography.
yeah,
where
but like the quality is just detail, even if it's very slow and they're in Paris and they're showing the Eiffel Tower, it just seems insanely detailed, like and then I feel that type of experience when you're on a trip, when you go outside, everything is just super detailed and seems it looks so real that it looks fake.
I've
Yeah.
had an opposite experience where when we were at Yosemite, no matter what, I could not capture its beauty.
Yes. So that's the hard part about photography. That's why it's an art. You see something with your eyes and you're like, man, I wish I can transfer this and show other people, but it's so difficult.
So I'm just crappy at taking pictures. All right, got it.
Crappy at taking pictures, or it's like you got to find like some really special angle. You got to do some post processing to really bring out what you think you saw.
God.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like some of these footages that you see, like pictures of like different like nature shots, like what we're seeing right now. Like if you try to replicate that, like I feel like I can never do it.
Yeah.
I have a nice Canon camera as well, and I feel like there's this touch to it that I haven't learned yet. But
But the biggest issue that I remember having is that you can never get the depth. You can never get that feeling, the grandeur feeling of just the massiveness of the mountains, the extreme, the height that we were at, like 8,000 above sea level and whatnot, just insane.
Because it
You can't
uses
capture
more.
it.
It uses more senses than just visual. You got to be there. You got to feel it. You got to look down and see it. Maybe in virtual reality you can kind of capture
Virtual
that.
reality would
even
help.
smelling it, like that nature smell that you get, like like kind of adds another piece to it.
I couldn't
Yeah.
get the distance. Like you can't feel the distance in the picture, that there's more mountains behind, there's this mountain in front, and that the whole splendor is just how massive the entire thing is.
Yeah, so like when you get to when you're at Yosemite Valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you go there and you can see it in 360-degree view, and like you said, you can smell it. When you take it in, there's also the fear also
Yeah.
right in the back of your mind. Like you can fall
You're done.
and you would die. So that you can't get, there's some sense that you can't get from a picture.
Yeah, I
And-
agree.
And that depth, it's like, especially when it's your first time and you're like, my God, like I couldn't imagine that there would be such depth in reality.
Yeah.
Like you can go,
kinda
you can
get
look
dizzy.
you can look for like infinity and you can't find a point.
Yeah.
So
it's
what's
like
go ahead.
sorry, no, I was saying, like when you even get to we're in from Chicago, so even if you go to Villas Tower and you go that high up, that depth perception.
Sears Tower.
It's Sears Tower.
Come on, bro.
I'm sorry, but once you get that high up, like your depth perception just gets like weird. It gets weird where your brain cannot perceive angles and everything just seems weird, and you kind of get dizzy looking at it because your brain doesn't know how to compute these images that you're seeing, especially when you're moving your head left and right and a lot. It's just taking a lot of information, doesn't know how to tie it back together to give it sense for you. So when you're that high up and you have that 3D depth, like something. We have some Google images going on in our screen.
Basically Chromecast background images.
They're beautiful.
So like for when you're that high up, you get dizzy when you look down because you're just looking at something that seems normal to you in front of you. As soon as you look down, now it's hard to your brains get a hard time calculating. You know,
when we're talking about such beauty, a lot of people would say that. Does nature just create it? A lot of people say
it does.
This is what makes them believe in God.
Right.
Like, this is their proof. Like, look how beautiful this is. It can't just be. Someone had to have created it. It's art.
So it goes into intelligent design, right? Or is that the right term? Right. So like they had to be an intelligent creator to do this. But then God, who's maybe it's Richard Dawkins or someone else, but they always argue the fact if an intelligent design is so amazing at creating these, beautiful like landscapes and creatures and animals and whatnot, it's really not intelligent because of all the evolution places that have taken place. Why have so many species have died out if it was so intelligent? Like
there's been failed products almost.
Yeah, there's been failed products, failed planets, there's failed star systems. There's so many failed things. Like if it was so intelligent, why would there be failure in the process? If intelligent design created human and structured them from sand, give them all these properties to think and be conscious. If he's so intelligent in doing that, why are so many animals? I think 99% of the animals are extinct from like the Earth's history, something like that, like or 95 or some crazy amount.
High.
Yeah, like if you look at all the fossil history that we found, and all of them are extinct.
And so many more are going to be extinct.
Yeah. So what kind of intelligent design creates creatures that fail in the system that it's supposed to live in?
Yeah.
Dodo bird was awesome.
So it's not super intelligent, and it's not like a system that's learned, but it is self-learning, right? Evolution is self-learning. It learns what it needs to do for its next generation. It keeps learning and getting better at it.
Or not learning,
but it doesn't already know.
Some of them, it's not. I think some of it is not self-learning. Some of it is just pure accidents. That some are genetic mutations that it's not that it learned to mutate. It's just an accident that happened in the genome, and boom.
The very being able to evolve wasn't an evolution.
I mean, I'm sorry. Repeat that again.
Like to evolve, like how, the first thing whatever existed, and then it evolved. Like when it first evolved, was the entire trait of being able to adapt and evolve, was that an evolutionary trait?
Like is evolution in itself?
Yeah, it's evolution and evolution.
What you're saying. And
so the numbers are actually higher. It's 99.9% of all species have gone extinct.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but you have to think that there's been catastrophic events that have killed everything off, and that's kind of the natural state is dying. So it's not like that thing that the number doesn't scare me, but the natural state is always death or to die.
Do you know how much more is going to go extinct?
So you're arguing that there is intelligent design, or
no? I wasn't going with that. I was just talking about that stat purely.
Okay. No, yeah. Granted, that most of it has to do with like asteroids and comets that might have hit and wiped out like the dinosaurs and all that stuff, and within it, so many species have died. But if you even take that out, there are so many species that are going extinct just through the changes of the climate change and all that stuff within the Earth itself.
So there's a study posted by Discovery.com that says 1 in 6 species will be extinct by 2100. So 1 in 6 species.
What about species that evolve? When species evolve, so the last cycle is extinct, right?
No, I mean when species evolve, it doesn't mean the species they evolved from are extinct.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
So they don't have to go extinct. That could just be like a mutation, and they could become their own species. But
right. Humanity is kind of a mystery, right? That we survived, whereas there were like 6 maybe humanoid species, which for some reason did not keep going, but we are here.
I always wondered, like, what if there was like different species? Because that would be really
right.
It's almost like
between us, right?
like we already like won
Well,
that we
they're-
wish that we could meet aliens. So there's like different kind of, you know, you play like Mass Effect or you see Star Wars, like how cool that there's this kind of character, there's this, you know, and what if right on Earth all six human
we do have some. We have different types of apes.
we have
you know,
Yeah.
that's the closest.
Sure.
Will be, those are our ancestors. You know,
I mean, of the
like
Homo-
orangutans, apes,
Yeah,
different kinds of monkeys.
I'm talking
Yeah.
like Neanderthals, things
Like,
like
you're
that.
talking about-
Some-
yeah, but you're talking about
Humans.
like
You're talking about okay,
Humanoid species.
humanoid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
well, we
right.
killed them all off.
That's one theory. I mean, Neanderthals were a lot stronger than us, but probably
Apparently,
not
they
as
had
smart.
bigger brains too.
Yeah, but
But
they
somehow
used it
they
for.
weren't smarter. Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't smarter because they used more of their brain for physical activity
Yeah, I
rather
think-
than processing or
And
intelligence.
besides that,
we
it
do.
could be how efficiently we use our brain compared to them.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's something cool that you told me. I think was it last year or something when you were explaining me about the Neanderthals, however you pronounce them.
Yeah.
You were saying there was it apes? But there was either apes or elephants or something that have bigger brains than human, right? Why aren't they a lot smarter than
Like
us?
whales.
Yeah, why aren't they a lot smarter? And the answer is because their body's so big.
Yeah, it's relative to the body.
Yeah, relative to the body. Even I guess, relative to the body, their brain has to focus so much on their engine running. It has to focus on their arms and their legs that are, and the heart that's beating. It needs to keep them alive so it doesn't let them consciously evolve. Whereas for us, there was a right mixture
Right.
where we had enough package to move our biology in our system, and then also now to start thinking.
With that, so go ahead.
Neil deGrasse talked about it in his book that I was telling you about.
Called what?
His new book.
Black holes and other cosmic quandaries. It's something like that. But he was talking about, he's like, well, we don't know what kind of life exists out there, but we can make certain assumptions. Like, it's not going to be 5 miles long because it would take, because obviously it
You
takes
need a
time
bigger
for the
brain.
it would take time for the brain to communicate with the legs, let's say. So it wouldn't make sense for them to be that long. So
Yeah.
there's certain assumptions we can make about
What
how
life
species
should
would be. Yeah.
Man,
Because we know how fast things travel, how
Yeah.
fast a thought even moves. We have an idea.
So no space whales.
Yeah, no
Probably.
space whales. Maybe there could be, but maybe not 10 times the size of whales.
I always picture a rock though. You know what I mean? Just made out of rock, and it looks like a whale just flying through space.
Would
Yeah.
so the
Consuming other
what was that
stars.
movie that just came out that was scientific and it had like the massive creatures? So would that not be
Arrival?
possible? Yeah, Arrival. Would
Yeah.
those not be possible then? Because
Well, they weren't too big
Yeah,
either.
they weren't
Yeah,
that
he's talking
big.
about 5 miles long.
Like, yeah, 5 miles
Oh,
long, or let's
sorry, I
say
didn't
3
hear
miles
that
long,
part,
for
yeah.
example. There's a certain size that we could do. But anyways, he was just saying that we can make certain assumptions about life.
I just
So what I found really interesting about that Neil deGrasse Tyson one was we always talk about can you keep making something smaller and smaller forever, right? So he brought up the fact that electrons, it has no known dimension.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't exist in any dimension and we don't know how small it can get. We
Yeah.
can just keep going in, but we can't reach an end.
and
Yeah.
then to tell you how small that is, you would need to know something that even smaller than that.
And there's nothing like that.
So-
So you can't even define how small an electron is
This
if you try.
this TV is 5 laptops wide, or
Yeah.
that was a terrible example.
Or
Did you-
27 inch.
Right. Did you listen
Yeah,
to
you
that?
could go with the-
podcast?
Yeah, I thought it was amazing, dude.
Right, and
yeah.
the part where he talked about dark matter, he's like, it should be called
Yeah.
dark gravity.
Gravity, yeah, because that's more related to.
Yeah,
That's the only thing we
Matter
know
itself.
about it.
the only thing we know is that it supposedly has a gravitational force, or it gives off gravity, but nothing else. We don't know what it is.
I think it's one of those things once the name takes off, like the Big Bang or
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Which should
kinda,
be the big flash.
Yeah,
Right.
it just or the Big Bounce, like you said before.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
once it takes off, and then it's kind of marketing. Because the thing with science is like to make it like reach out to, because like science is not popular within the community or the world. So like they have, once they get their big, once they get a shot to pass that knowledge down, they do pick terms that are appealing to people that will like, once you see a title that you will read into it and look into it, because all they're trying to do is trying to, build curiosity into
Right.
everyone that's trying to see it. So like just recently, the finding of the planets, it's such a huge deal that no one is talking about it, or not. I mean, in our group, even I was so busy that I haven't even got a chance to like dive in and read into it.
No idea what's going
But
on.
I'm super stoked about it. Like,
Google had their thing where it was like geo or whatever. They had the planets and they come and like hug Earth.
Yeah, because I knew, because even in the Tyson's, I mean, first I heard it was through there where they were talking about, NASA's gonna make a big announcement. I think it was the day after their podcast or whatever, and he said it has to be some sort of planets that they found that harbors life. Or
aren't there like 8 planets that they found, and like 3 of them are in like the Goldilocks zone? If you would say.
Yeah, so it's a perfect solar system, perfect, zone to like now. To have life now with the John
have
Webb.
water too, I think.
Yeah, but they're gonna confirm more of it from just
James
briefly.
Webb
James Webb.
Because it's gonna be able. The first, I guess, the project's gonna be for that telescope to aim it at that planet and see.
Oh, yeah.
There's, I don't know if you guys can, one of you can pull it up. There's few things when they look at planets, they scan for. I don't know. Can you look at for
Heat signatures.
Not only that, there's like
it's a spectrum of light that it's going to look, and
Atmosphere.
but if
it's
that
not
light,
going to be visible light. It's going to be, I think it's infrared. So
X-ray.
yeah, but there's these 3 chemicals that they look for that
So-
can that you need to have oxygen to have water.
signatures of those.
Nitrogen.
Yeah.
So they actually have visible spectrums. Like I'll look it up too, but basically you can actually see spectrums of light, and you can tell what's there by that light. The way it's, like whether it's red or blue, and I think there's one more.
Once you have those, and it tells, you're looking for pretty much confirming it, because like in order to confirm there is going to be life there, you have to look at
The atmosphere.
like you have to look at how everything works within our solar system and Earth. So if you can confirm that it's identical over there, then the odds of life being there are greatly.
So basically, I was watching a documentary. So when they see these images, get these pictures, because of when stars are forming and whatnot, and there's so much heat, there's gases that are given out, there's always a haze in all the pictures. So the initial shot they'll have, you can't even see stars, because there will be like a dark smoky haze. You'll
Right.
see them in all the pictures. So you would do it was infrared, and you'll be able to see behind this haze, this smoke cloud,
Yeah.
right? You'll get a little bit of the light, but you don't completely take away all that smoke, the haze.
Yeah,
Then you do an X-ray,
right.
and that's what completely clears it off, and you can see just the stars.
Yeah, it's beautiful how they do that technology, man. And the human brain to even come up to do those techniques to do those things. Did you find something?
Yeah, you guys can. I was just putting up so you guys can read it, but
It's hard for me to read. From
yeah. Oh, sorry. Basically, it's going to be able to tell. So remember, there's different spectrums of light, and they have different like energies. So we see everything in visible light, but infrared light basically is a tool for us to see things that we would normally not be able to see, and we can see signatures of molecules that we wouldn't be able to see. So we can see oxygen. We can't see it with a visible
my
light,
goodness.
but we can see it with infrared light.
Yeah.
Do we know how much stronger this is going to be than the Hubble? Like, is there like a number, like 5 times, 6 times?
I think it's,
You got a laptop,
I mean,
bro.
this is really this telescope is so huge. It's saying it's going to be launched in October 2018, and I know it's going to be in a particular spot in the sky. I forgot, it's like L1, L2, or something like that. And that's the cool thing. I mean, this is going to be huge just for all of us.
Yeah.
Because all these theories we have, all this finding planet
Right.
stuff.
Because I kind of want to go back and emphasize, why this is such a huge deal. Because what makes me sad is, like, we go to our day-to-day lives and we're just so locked in this box, which is Earth or our life. And then the idea of even knowing there's a planet that might have the same conditions to have life, like, I mean, we've been looking at the skies for a while now within
Forever.
but like with our current technology, even from the 70s and forward, like with the Hubble telescope and so forth, we've been looking in a deep space for so long that it's so vast, and the odds of just finding that needle in a haystack, it's insanely huge. They might not be like human life or like, but it might have the right conditions to even have like bacterial life. So then that shows you that life is a formula, or it's a recipe. That if you have if you have these recipes that are in place, that this star that with X amount of size, a planet that's in certain distance, that you have the perfect conditions to have life and let it evolve.
Yeah.
So that it shows you that.
Or even if there is a perfect condition for life.
Right. I mean, it is, because you said this is a pretty good condition for life, because
Yeah,
the fact
for
that
life.
we're here.
No, but I'm wondering if there is a perfect condition in the idea that can life arise even if the conditions aren't quite perfect,
But that's what they say. It has to be in this ballpark. I don't know what the math would be. Would it be 90-95% of this related? I mean, with our technology, we can alter our technology to survive. 5%. If it didn't have X amount of oxygen, then you can at least create an oxygen max and you can carry it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if the water had salt in it, at least we can go in there and filter it out to pull the salt and have a regular water to drink.
You can look right in our own solar system and see that there isn't life on Mars. There isn't life on Neptune,
But
Jupiter.
there might have been life on Mars, right?
Yeah, but when it was more Earth-like, right?
Sure, that's the idea.
So again,
and also the fact that like when we think of life, like we only know of life on Earth. That's the only life we know of, and everything that we talk about life is gonna come from that matter. So I don't think we still don't know what life really means and what mechanisms it works from and how it arises, right? Because we only know of Earth.
Yeah, but we know everything that's in Earth creates life. If you I don't have the
but on Earth, on Earth.
Yeah, but if you were to replicate that, just theoretically, wouldn't you get life again if you had the same star with the same distance, with the same atmosphere, with the same conditions? And if I was to go there and if I threw a single cell organism into that planet, and what were the
wait, so there would be no single cell organism because we're starting from scratch.
So
let's say we have all the same systems, everything same, just like Earth, right?
Right.
And so people say that even life existing or coming to life,
would not occur.
Yeah, because they say that could be a great filter. Because when I was reading about the great filter, there's this theory that there's this freak accident where I think either the prokaryote cell turns into a eukaryote or the other way around. I'm not sure. But it's that jump, which is the biggest jump in life, and that it's never been replicated. It's only happened once on Earth. Right. Whereas, species have gone from single to multicellular and all kinds of other things have happened so many times. But that one jump,
I wish we can replicate it in a lab,
cannot replicate it, and it almost seems like 1 in a billion freak accident. And this was in the Wait But Why article.
Right.
So I don't remember if it's prokaryote to eukaryote or the other way around, but it's that jump in between them, which is like, it's magical.
Right, but
it's unexplained.
Yeah.
And even if you have an Earth-like system,
the odds of that happening are unlikely.
Yeah.
So there's that, and if we can ever go there, I think it's like some 40 light years away, whatever, which is kind of impossible to reach. But if one day if we were somehow we're able to get there, but if you were to inject some sort of bacteria or life, you could kind of see how it would play out because the conditions are perfect.
Yeah.
Granted, it doesn't already have of its own, but
you are starting from life.
Yeah.
So.
But the what's so exciting about that is, one, are we alone in the universe? It's that question. I know we in this group ask a lot. I know there's a lot of people in the it's not a majority of the people in the Earth that think like that, but that's sad. Because we are so consumed by our maybe religion and afterlife and God that you don't think about it that much. But you look up so far and it's just a sea of space that's kind of infinite, and then we're saying there might be other life there,
right?
So what are they doing? What are they thinking? What gods have they created?
Yeah.
What how many gods have they created? Are they praying to the same God? Is there a God? Do
you think they're doing all the same stuff we're doing, just on a different world? Because if you look,
they have to.
Before
they're surviving probably.
Before there was traveling through ships, even. All the different, if you look at different ancient civilizations, they all had rituals. They're all praying. There was always some sort of god. If it was the god Ra, the sun god in ancient Egypt, or ancient Mesopotamia, and everyone had their own religions and things like that, and they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So could the space be our ocean, and they're all doing the same thing too?
They have to be, because I guess it depends on how conscious you get. If they get conscious to our level, or if they're conscious, to an elephant's level, maybe they're not thinking about God. They're just thinking about survival. So if you have this life system like ours, you need to eat, and maybe they don't have to drink, but whatever they're gonna have to consume to survive and keep the engine running, that's all they're gonna pursue.
How do they multiply?
That's how.
Well, they wouldn't be there if they don't multiply, right?
Yeah.
They would just die. There would not be life. I think the whole idea of life is that it reproduces.
The one mind-boggling thing I was watching, I think it was called Cosmos something. It wasn't The Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson or what was the older one? Carl Sagan?
Carl Sagan.
Yeah. And they were talking about, it's just so insane to just, think about. But if you were to take a pen and just put the tip of the pen, that point alone has
That's the
thousands.
video that I just shared with you.
Oh, really?
That was in the Cosmos.
How many stars are in that one tip? They were saying thousands.
So what they were trying to show was like the very
My bad.
the very famous.
Trying to steal it, man. Trying to take the credit.
But it wasn't the Cosmos. It was I guess a video that we can post it on our Facebook. It was really cool. They were just trying to show the scale of the universe. I shared it on our WhatsApp group. I don't know. Did you get a chance to see it?
It's so
it was cool. It was done through animation.
Very good animation too.
It was like a hand-drawn animation.
It looked like Caillou or something.
Yeah, something
back
you
in the
would like. But anyway, they were showing the Hubble telescope when the famous picture of that galaxy where it shows this. I forgot. 3,000 galaxies, but they all look like stars, but they're galaxies in the picture. You know what I'm talking about, right?
The Hubble took.
Yeah,
it stitched everything together.
And they show like that. When it did it, it just focused on that area for like 10 days, I think. I can't remember on top of my head. But that picture that it showed, it looks like an infinite picture on its own. But what they're trying to show, like on a scale, on a Earth level, just take a pencil and point it in the sky, and the tip of the pencil is what that image captured. And so, like, if you look at the sky, how vast it is, and we're just saying if you point that pencil to the sky, the tip is the image that the Hubble telescope took. Within it, that image had, I forgot how many, 3,000 galaxies in it. Within itself, it has 100 or 200 billion. Each galaxy has that many stars that might have solar systems, that might have planets, like Earth-like planets that might harbor life. God, that one single, it's not even a pixel. Oh, it would be a pixel if you were saying it's the size of the pencil. But
do you think it's even possible that there is a way to be interstellar? Is it even?
It's too vast.
I mean,
you would have to go faster than light. Even the fact that you can go faster than light, even if you were to go at the speed of light, the part of the speed of light when you go at the speed of light, there's no mass. The photons are massless. So you're saying that if you were to go at the speed of light, that all your mass in your body will just go away. You'll just be pure energy. So how does your body and your conscious come back, 1-to-1 ratio when it stops? When you turn into pure energy, how are your atoms gonna come back and connect together? That fact alone is not a solvable answer. So they say you can probably go 99.9%, where you have maybe X amount of mass that goes with you and puts itself back together.
Then you can't go speed of light.
Yeah, a speed of light goes 6 trillion miles a year, and then 300 miles a second. So like, that's insane. Like if I snap my finger, a light has traveled 300 miles.
Good Lord.
Which is insane. That
can't even imagine.
Yeah,
that.
Going from here to London, it's 8 hours. So if I snap, it's saying it's gone that, and that's 8,000 miles or something like that. It's gone 300 miles within a snap of a finger.
Isn't there something called a God particle that goes even faster than light?
Well, no, God particle is the Higgs boson. That's a particle that gives mass to everything.
To other things, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoops.
When you bring up that point of light speed and all that, I like to imagine that our brains evolved in the jungle, right?
Okay.
Hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago, to just to understand like monkey logic, right? I love to think about other dimensions and the fact that we think that these things are impossible, and then they're so possible, and that there are things beyond that
it becomes obvious,
that are like the stuff we talk about, like traveling at the speed of light. Maybe that's like nothing if you go to another dimension.
Yeah, it's like,
right, and that there's other problems that arise, like way bigger things we can't even imagine.
So it would have to be the fourth dimension. So in that Neil deGrasse Tyson,
fourth dimension would be time.
Yeah,
but he was talking about that the movie Monsters Inc., that they had the fourth dimension perfect, where you could just walk in through a door and just step out on the other side, and you're in a completely different place.
Because you go to different place, different time.
Right. Just imagine like a 2D side-scrolling video game that you play.
Yeah.
Right. You're walking across. You come up against a wall, and there's nothing. Say the wall is really tall. There's nothing you can do because you're on a 2D plane.
Yeah.
Now imagine you have access to the third dimension, and you realize that wall actually has space behind it that you can go around it.
Yeah.
But you did not know that if you're in a 2D world.
What's that Zelda game? That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, like a 2D,
What's
like
that-
Zelda 2 was a 2D side scroller.
What is it called? Zelda.
Breath of the
Zelda
Wild.
3D.
Breath of the
Besides-
Wild.
Zelda 3D. I don't know. I was just going
What's
to the
that?
new one.
What's that DS game that where it goes from 2D to 3D? Because you can't.
Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, that one. Because
Yeah.
that game does it very well. Where it's a 2D Zelda game, and you get. I've never played it, but I've seen videos. But like you can probably speak to it. Where you in order to solve, you'll get to a room and you feel like there's no way out of this room.
Mm-hmm.
Then you probably hit a button and it goes 3D, and all of a sudden you see a different side of that room that you would not have saw in
Yeah.
2D, and you solve the
A very good
Right.
example
Well,
of
hold
that.
on. Let me just go back to that because that's now that you bring it up is even crazier. So the
Yeah.
game is actually not 2D; it's 3D. But
or
you
it goes to 2D.
It goes
yeah, then it
2D,
goes backwards.
so-
Sorry, I was saying it wrong.
so you go one dimension less. You go backwards
to solve a problem.
find a path forward. So it's incredible in that way.
How about How about instead of going a dimension up, you have to go to dimension down? Because think about it, like maybe to go like a wormhole or something like that we can't see in the 3D space. But maybe if you turn into 2D, everything just becomes so small that one step takes you to another galaxy or something like that. You know what I mean?
I think
Yeah.
Or it
losing a
takes you-
dimension would take more time.
Well, what would one dimension be? That would just be a single point. That's all it would be, I think.
Come on,
What
pull
else could it be? What would 1D be? I think
I've
it's
never think about 1D.
Yeah.
I only think about 2D.
Because I think it would be
length,
just one
height,
point.
and
Yeah.
width. So you pick one. You would just have.
So it'll probably just be an
Length or
axis.
width,
It'll
or-
just be the y-axis or the x-axis.
Well, there's
Depend-
there's
depending on
X,
which-
Y, Z, right? So it would just be X.
So
Let's say.
Z is 3D.
Yeah.
So I guess on a 1D, it depends on which one where you landed. Either you land on the y-axis or the x-axis. You wouldn't know which one you're at, but it would be one or the other.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
you'd be
trying to-
completely flat. You would have no length
Yeah.
or
Yeah, so you just go
say,
left and right.
width.
So 2D will be left, right, and also up and down.
Or maybe you can't go anywhere. Just a
No,
point.
that's what it have to
Okay.
be, right?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It would be a point.
I think it would just be a point.
Well, you
one
can
dimension.
Pull it up.
The point can move left or right. No.
I tried
No,
putting
it's just
up
a
one.
point. It's not a line. So I imagine a line is
Yeah,
2D.
Because the line would have two. Yeah.
Line is 2D.
Well, you're the designer here.
I think 1D would just be a
Come on,
point.
dude, you gotta
Yeah,
pull it up on
it makes
answer.
sense.
I'm trying.
Hmm.
I asked, what would 1D be? One
No.
Direction's coming up. Let me do
One
it.
direction.
And they're pretty popular.
It's just gotta be one
Um,
direction.
Yeah, I have no idea, but that's
Just do what one dimension look like. There we go. Should be
The
top
first
answer.
dimension is the line. You need two dots
No.
to define a line. Any other dot on the line can be located on that line using one real number that will give the distance of the third dot to the first dot.
So yeah, I guess it will be just x-axis, right? So you just go left and right.
I-
So
I
does
s-
you need two dots to do that?
I still think it would just be the dots without the line. I think once you
there's
add the
no
line,
line.
it's a
That's the second dimension.
okay,
Says right
yeah,
on
yeah.
the bottom.
So there's no line; it's just a dot. So you could have two dots, but it wouldn't be connected. So that's incredible. You have two dots. There's no way to get to the other dot. You add a second dimension, you can get from one dot to another.
Okay.
So the universe right now is like 1D because we can't get to,
No.
like other universes. I
Yeah,
totally
I'm
messed up.
saying.
let me just bow out.
But actually, it's not.
I get roasted.
Man, but string theory is really neat, right? It's fun to think about the idea that we're some kind of, what do they call it? Like a string just vibrating in different dimensions.
Yeah, everything just a string, and they say it's smaller than the electron itself. So
Right.
like, but like, what's crazy about that whole string theory is there's a group of scientists that only have a notepad and pencil, and they're trying to figure out the universe. They don't need a telescope. They don't need any equipment. They don't need a computer.
Because you got to
It's-
think.
It's just coming up with the formula to tell how everything in the universe
Yeah.
works. You know?
And then the scary part is, imagine you were in a two-dimensional world. How you couldn't even imagine a third dimension.
Yeah.
You could only see its effects. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe you could see its effects, but you could never imagine a third dimension. And we're in a third dimension. We can see the fourth dimension time, but we can't freely access it. Now imagine another dimension, other dimensions, fifth, sixth, seventh.
Yeah.
Like we can't even imagine what goes on there.
It's insane. I had a question for you, and I lost it as you were explaining. You know, that whole life thing that we took that one jump. What do you believe that incident you feel hasn't happened in the universe yet? It's just that it's only this point.
There's no
Well,
proof
well,
of it, right?
I
Even
mean-
on Earth, it's only happened through a freak accident
I mean, of
once.
course, even if there's no way where we can prove it because the universe is so vast
Yeah.
that we can. But what do you feel like? Do you feel like this is the only place where it took that jump,
So depressing.
You know, I was just
or it's beautiful?
I want to cry.
it's scary. I was actually thinking of that. Like, we always imagine that the universe is so vast, and it is, right?
Yeah.
We can't even imagine how vast. But what if we are the only life? What if there
I
is
don't-
no other life?
so
Don't say
my-
that.
My thing is, I don't think we are. There's no way, because the universe is not one of anything.
Right. But we always imagine that.
yeah.
What if we are? I think that's the
So
scary
if
part.
the universe is ever expanding, there has to be another place. If there's so many possibilities occurring, there's millions of possibilities occurring each second. If there's so many stars at the tip of your pen, there's just that much more of a possibility that this has happened. So even if it's 1 in a billion, then it's possible.
Okay, but you know what? Even on Earth, there's only been one Genesis, or at least we only have proof of one Genesis. We've never found life has started twice, even on Earth itself. So that's how rare it is, actually.
Right, but anytime we said there's one of anything, we've always been wrong. So yeah, of course, on
Right.
Earth itself, it's probably one of it's that one jump that took place. But we can't say for a fact that it hasn't happened anywhere else in the galaxy.
So
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Why here? What made that? What was it? Eukaryote to prokaryote, or was it? The
I
other
think
one?
Hasban just pulled it up, so it's prokaryote to eukaryote.
So. What made that initially happen?
No idea.
And
Apparently,
we
it's a
don't know.
freak
Sorry,
accident.
you're
Just
We-
happened.
We weren't
Mutation.
there, so there's no way for us to even tell what happened.
There's,
we can
there's a
only
really
guess.
good TED episode about it, and they go into like new theories. But what they talk about, what they actually describe, I can't go into the details of it. But it's like it's such an unlikely event. It's like me and you merging to become one person, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kinda happened.
Seamless, and
Right.
it's
Yeah.
seamless, and it
And
works.
something had to happen for us to somehow merge into one, because they describe it and they're like, well, this is like a 1 in a million chance that it would happen, or maybe more.
Yeah.
But if it did happen, it had to have happened like this. And they explain something with the mitochondria and how they exchange energy to become one. But it's just so unlikely.
Yeah, and that's why they even call that a great filter, actually.
So
in one
was
of
it a
the-
glitch?
Explain that with the great filter. What do you mean by that?
So a great
I know what you
filter,
mean by that, but
right.
I
So
love the great filter.
So the great filter is the idea that there's like some filter where life does not move forward from, right? It gets all wiped out and it doesn't move forward.
right.
So the idea is, I mean, we've heard about a lot of great filters, like these cataclysmic events that happen, gamma ray burst, or something where there's a line, life never goes forward. But the crazy idea with this theory is that it happened even before life started.
Yeah.
Because we always think, okay, life did not move after this point. But what if the prokaryote to eukaryote cell evolution sort of thing was the great filter? Because we see a lot of things happen on Earth multiple times, like single cell to multicellular
Yeah.
organism, but we don't see that jump.
Even
on
right now,
Earth.
we haven't seen that jump ever. It hasn't
Never
done,
happen again.
Well, what if it did happen somewhere, like maybe in a deep sea or something, and then went extinct within 1,000 years or something? But
Well-
we never,
I wonder how they figure that out, because they say that there's no evidence at all. It's like the freakiest accident ever that it happened. You know what I imagine is, what if that prokaryote to eukaryote cell evolution is 1 in an infinity chance? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but-
Like, it only happens once in a universe.
oh shit, one in infinity. But I was just to say, holy shit, it's a mind fuck. Hold on, let me register that. Because I was about to rebuttal you, but it's infinite. It just gotta happen.
Yeah, I went to infinity. But then, do you remember that part where, where Neil deGrasse Tyson started talking about
About
that there's
infinite?
not just one infinity, right?
Yeah.
There's many different, and he explained it mathematically, and I think
we talked about it before. Like
we
you know,
did, yeah.
you if you look at just counting from 1 to infinite, it's infinite. But within that, you can count to 1 to 2, which is also infinite. You can go to
Register that.
0.0000000. You can go on forever and say 1, then that turn that into 2. But by the time you get to 2, that also is infinite. So there's different infinite. Infinity has
sizes.
sub infinities. So it's such a complicated problem or issue. Like
It's something that we can only come up with tools of writing and
mathematics, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, even to get down to what math is, if we didn't know how to write it and stuff, we can only do that math to a certain level. And there's a great Vsauce episode that like explores this too. Kind of boring, but so interesting at the same time. Like you're like, holy crap, these concepts are so way beyond me. And then he goes into like you could add infinities together, or you could do like different things with infinities.
Yeah, there's a specific episode that he did.
Yeah.
It's coming back.
Yeah, just on infinity. Like for example, if you did basic math, it'd be like, what is infinity times infinity? It's two infinities, right? It's 2 infinity, but it's actually not that simple, and there's more to it.
Yeah.
And
It's complicated.
I was always good at math, and I feel like doing higher like level math nowadays. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like now that I have this background on like everything,
Right.
I'm like, kind of want to go back to it and check it out.
It's one thing that as going through in high school in our chemistry and physics class, I didn't appreciate it then, and I now having the curiosity that I have now, that eager to, I wish I can go back in time and take those classes. I can do those on my own now with YouTube, and there are free apps and stuff like that are available, but right now I'm just so consuming time that I haven't found the opportunity to do so. But to imagine to see the universe as you walk through an eye of a physicist, it just has to be the most beautiful thing.
Yeah,
you can
how Neil
experience.
deGrasse sees the universe compared to how we see it, and I mean the concepts that we've introduced amongst each other
are just
helped.
breathtaking.
Yeah,
like,
you're like, holy crap.
they themselves are so beautiful and like magical. It's hard to even like that's why we started this, is like because we feel something very special in the air as we walk in this planet. Not to sound like a douche, but there's something that is, when you see it from a cosmic perspective, everything is just so beautiful. I don't know, just hard to put in words, and you just wish maybe if the whole world could see what I'm seeing. That has to be end of corrupt politicians, that has to be end of poverty, that has to be end of world hunger, that has to be humans uniting for a greater cause that's more than us. Like, I have a life and I have a role. I don't have a purpose. I'm finding what that purpose is, but I feel if we all join
Spoiler,
in hands,
no purpose, bro.
There is no purpose, but I'm finding a purpose.
You can make one though.
Yeah,
and you could believe in it. There's nothing wrong with that.
And then I feel like we will just unite for something bigger than us, because that's what this world really is right now. The way we are told to live our lives are that you are the most biggest thing that's ever the universe has created, when that's not true at all.
Right,
we're nothing. We're literally nothing. And once we realize that, then you can magnify the importance of our time. So this, I guess we can segue into my what the fuck moment for what I had just the other day. I guess like the last podcast we didn't go into it that much, but I kind of did into one. But you guys, we had such a long podcast that we
just had one now,
yeah,
and I'll talk about it. Go ahead.
All right, but the last podcast we ended up, since we talked for so long that we cut some of our segments out, so it kind of I think we took some of your guys' what the fuck moment now. But in that last episode, what we tried to explain was there's these mindfuck experiences that we all experience in our daily lives with this vision of the cosmic perspective that we have, and we just kind of turned into a segment called what the fuck moment. So here's mine for this week. It was yesterday. My wife was out hanging out with her family, so I was spending time with my daughter pretty much for the whole day, obviously. But it was like around like 9 o'clock, where she anytime I go make her milk, she always wants to come with me and put her on the counter and take her up. So as we were done making her milk bottle, I was taking her up the stairs, and she was hugging me, and she was hugging me really tight. And as I was walking, and I don't know what the hell just hit me, where it's hard to really describe it. I'm gonna try my best, but it felt if you can, for me, if I can imagine life, or if I can imagine anything, I pictured it as a simulation or a game, right? So I pictured the whole universe, and everything is fixed as a game that when you develop it, you can put like graphs everywhere. And here I am at this point in time with my daughter hugging and climbing this ladder that's going up, and I'm not really going anywhere. I'm just in a simulation where the stairs are moving down. My body's kind of still, and here I am, and I was sent here for whatever reason. I'm alive. I can experience things, and I just feel this love of this child that just grasped in me, and I felt like I'm in a simulation, and we're one. Like, me and my daughter were one at that moment. Like, that's amazing, man.
Yeah. You were tripping up the stairs.
Yeah, it was just like, I'm gonna be gone, but this experience right now, I feel like I'm gonna live forever.
Wow.
I'm gonna be dead and gone. My daughter's gonna be a lot older. As time is going by, she's growing up so fast. But right now, at this moment, we were meant to be here. I was in this virtual reality where she's experiencing me and I'm experiencing her love. It was insanely magical. And then I just went, whoa, what the fuck's going on? It's that shot of awe that hits you of like, you're in this, and then I go to my room. Everything seems like a video game. I'm going to my room. There's a cycle of life that I'm playing. I gotta, this character who's my daughter, I gotta keep her happy. I gotta stay happy. I gotta eat. It's a game. That's all we're doing. We're all just playing a game, and we all have been we all kind of buy our we didn't choose to buy this game. You know, some of us buy a game and we are just navigating it to where we want to go.
Because life is like software, right? You
Yeah, it
have
has
to
to be.
eat, otherwise you start getting hungry, and there's consequences to your actions. You know what you do put in your body, whatnot, and
Well-
it is like a game.
Yeah.
But we seem to be doing everything for the future, and I think that your what the fuck moment just kind of shows your appreciation for the now. And
Yeah.
it made me think of a quote that I just read like last week. It was that now is the envy of all of the dead.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You know, like
Yeah.
we can't really appreciate it, but
Repeat it
What-
again. That was pretty good.
now is the envy of all the dead,
It's beautiful.
of all of the dead. But
Yeah.
it was still beautiful before that.
That's what I kind of felt too. Like I felt like a moment where, you know, 50 years, 100 years from now, I won't be here, but I'm here now. I'm here hugging her.
Because the dead don't have a now.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have a
and
them.
that's why they envy us.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
And
Wow.
it kind of, when I was going up the stairs, last thing in my head, I kind of see like the, I don't know, anytime I have a third person moment, I will see it from the outside of me, you know? So I kind of saw like the camera zoom out and it just goes from left to right and zooms out, and I'm walking up in an infinite universe, you know? Even though I'm going up the stairs in my room, but if you really think at it, I'm in an infinite universe, and I've climbed up X amount of height in that universe with my
Yeah.
daughter.
No, man, that's beautiful. So I'm for my what the fuck moment, I'm gonna
But
go
you just
with
had now.
yeah. So this is a different kind of what the fuck moment than what you and me usually talk about. It's more in line with what these guys were talking about last week.
Okay.
So it's more not about just like what is this life or
Yeah.
whatever, but it was just when you were talking about how you didn't have the curiosity when you were in chemistry class or
Yeah.
whatever mathematics class. And I was just thinking about how you blame yourself in a way that you didn't have the curiosity and how
Yeah.
you regret that. But I was thinking about my personal experience, and I also didn't have it at that point, right?
Mhm.
And I was thinking about why did I have curiosity for history at that point? And I realized that I had this one incredible teacher in 7th grade that made history so much fun. I mean, isn't it crazy that the most incredible thing that shapes our future, teachers
Yeah.
in elementary school, and they don't seem to get chemistry or mathematics or science across to their students.
Yeah.
They don't enjoy it. The vast majority of people find it boring and don't really care about it in that grade, but that's because of the teacher.
Because the teachers themselves are they're, I guess any like smart teacher you see that is really qualified are not sociable, because their brain is so catered to thinking high level math that their brain never develops social skills. So like for them, like my chemistry teacher was so horrible. Like he was really smart. Like dude was smart as hell, but his social skills were out the window. Like he couldn't. It was just so funny to be in his class. Like he'd be a perfect teacher to make fun of. You know, and kids did do that. They would just make fun of him.
Yeah.
But like what he was trying to, like he would just probably sit there and bang his head like, oh my god, only if these kids can understand the book that they're holding right now. You know what? So many civilizations have to kill one another to, because this could be considered as, you know, black magic math. If you, because once you understand this, the stuff that you can create, the powers that you can create out of it are just endless to a limit to our, you know, human evolution in terms of technology. You can create computers out of it. You can create, you know,
Anything.
You can create tools to help you with your everyday life. And if you only understood the, you know, when you're in a physics class, the book that they're giving you is everything that we know about the universe and how it works.
Right.
And then you can take that tool and create something that no one else has probably ever figured out. And to your point, I had one teacher that changed my life, and that was in 8th grade, Mr. Jones. Like I remember in 6th grade, he was like the really hard teacher in elementary school, and he was a really fun teacher as well. He took his math seriously, but he also made it very fun. And my sister was in his class, and she was used to talk about that. So, and kind of me coming from, you know, Pakistan to America, I had a hard time transitioning into the school system, learning English and whatnot. So I was kind of always behind.
Bilingual.
Yeah, but there was something about his class that kind of motivated me to work harder and understand things harder. And I went from being like an okay student to like a B student. Then from his class, I went from being B student to A student. And he was a guy that really sparked my curiosity in education, taking it seriously and all that. So like if it wasn't for him, I was always curious, but I didn't appreciate the things that we were learning because the way we're taught is that it's homework, it's school. You just got to do it. They're not the way it was never told to me that what you're learning is the universe itself. You're learning the language of the universe when you're learning mathematics.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it's the amount of passion that the communicator or the messenger brings to it. When you go to a YouTube channel, you watch something, and you could easily find a video on physics and not even connect with it, not even like it. Then you go to Carl Sagan. Or when we first watched Neil deGrasse Tyson and Cosmos, and you're hooked. You're into that subject. But if that subject is presented by somebody that's not passionate about it, and doesn't feel like he really thinks something of it, you don't connect.
Well, one thing is passion. Another thing is the fact that a lot of these teachers, are always getting pay cuts. When the government goes to cut something, you see so many teachers always on strike, and that's a problem too.
But also, when you're really into something, money doesn't matter also. You know what I mean? I mean, because I had that 7th or 8th grade teacher, history teacher, and I didn't care for history until that point. They made it, he made it so interesting.
But to his point, when it comes to education, that should not be up for debate how much money we need to invest in our kids in our future, right? And there is an issue with, cities of Chicago that spend their money incorrectly and they don't have enough to spend on school. So they're condensing school classes. They're closing down with Rahm Emanuel. I think we closed, I don't know.
I think it's the largest school closing in all of history.
Yeah, they closed shitload of schools.
When you think about it that way, it's kind of crazy, right? In all of history, I think it's one of the largest school closings.
I think this was in 2012.
You might want to fact check that, but I'm almost certain because I have a special hate for Rahm Emanuel.
So what he did is
since the beginning of the Big Bang.
Since the beginning of the Big Bang,
and majority of this was all
since that photon.
So 50 schools got shut down. That's 10% of all Chicago schools. In 2013, that's what Rahm Emanuel did.
And
does that include private schools?
No. Mostly and predominantly Black and Latino communities.
I was about to say, and what the sad part about it is, they do it in areas that people don't have enough voice. They did it in poor neighborhoods. They close. So what they do is these kids already they don't have the proper infrastructure for education, books, and quality of life. And what they did is they closed all their schools down. And they condense them by zip codes. So now one class out of being 20 kids a class, 30 kids a class, now there's ended up being 40. How is one teacher supposed to motivate 40 students that have 40 different learning styles? Mm-hmm. That's a system set up for failure. Not only for the teacher, because the teacher's going to be exhausted because there's 40 different heads that are learning the universe in different ways and styles. How do you create an agenda that caters to everyone's styles? There are some kids that like it straight up boring, and there are kids that will like it more in a free form where, maybe just a free lecture where, everyone's involved in talking, going around. But you don't have enough time to do that either. So it's just this, since our priorities as our communities are not, are set up correctly, it's just a system that's set up for failure. And this is only going to hurt us as human civilization moving forward, Right. It's just sad that we don't put education first. That is the future of our...
Well, some people think that the public education system is not good enough and that privatizing it would be better. And I guess, and this is also an American way of thinking that government can't do it, so we should privatize it. But then it becomes for money. And if there's a lot of things in this world that are not just for money, it's education. The teachers you're talking about, they didn't really pursue a career or that career for the money. I mean, I don't see it. I have friends who are school teachers. And they are genuinely into what they do. And of course, there's crappy teachers. And I was about to tell a story about a crappy teacher. For example, right now we do astronomy, or we love talking about astronomy, about science. But one of the most important astronomy classes I ever had was taught by this Chinese professor who barely spoke English, with a really thick accent and stuff. Yeah. So sometimes it seems like people have opposite experiences. They're either... teachers are really bad and they seem to hurt kids, or they're really good and they seem to motivate kids. But I feel like public education is really important. I mean, everyone is you should educate. You should educate. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
And even people when they
that should not be up for debate.
Yeah, I don't even know. And when when me and you disagree, in the back of my mind, I would be thinking, or maybe you'd be thinking, if only he was more educated about that topic, you'd see it my way.
Yeah.
So the other issue is that you can't have. There aren't 20 LeBron James in the NBA either. You know, not every team has every single person being LeBron James. So being a good teacher is also a skill. So you can't can you train someone to be LeBron James?
Can you educate the educators to be good educators?
Jeez.
Well,
Yeah.
I think part of it has to be if the passion is there, then you don't. Not everyone has to be a LeBron James to have like a good
Impact.
impact in education. You just need, a decent good teacher.
The problem with public schools seems to be that you can't fire teachers.
Yeah,
So they're just like, there's old teachers, and I'm sure we've all had those old teachers that come,
they're
they
just
do the
milking the
work,
system,
but they're
yeah.
There's I guess they're milking it. They know they have their job. They're 50K a year, 40K a year,
it's unionized,
whatever it is.
I
Yeah.
think.
So that's the part where private schools seem to make more sense because teachers are not as accountable. At the same time.
So like once you hit your 20th year, you're just so exhausted from kids that you just do the bare minimum, and then you're robbing the kids' education, which in return that is wrong. So
I don't see that though.
Do you know what the problem is? Gangs.
Yeah.
When I say gangs, I mean like gangs like police gangs, normal gangs, even like public school unions or unions in general, where people are more worried about watching out for each other than the impact of that person on society.
Yeah. So this kind of by you saying that reminds me of what Paul Ryan said, which kind of like hurts me, like because like not to go back on the Trump train again, but like it's kind of not hard to do it without.
Well, we haven't talked about him this whole time.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
We made it, guys.
There goes that, guys.
But like going back to like that gang thing, that's how I feel the Republican Party is, because while Trump was a candidate and he's nominated, the whole Republican Party didn't approve him, saying, "Oh, he's
Denounced him, yeah.
Yeah, he's not, and he doesn't stand for the Republican Party. He's gonna tear us apart and so forth." Paul Ryan came out and spoke against him. But after he got elected, there was a part where I think it was with the refugees or something. So Paul Ryan's there defending, or he changed his position. I forgot. Yeah, Paul Ryan did come out and speak against Trump's Muslim ban that he said through the campaign. Now that he's elected, now that he works, reports to him or whatever, or he doesn't want to be on a bad side for Trump. Some interview asked him about the refugee thing, and he didn't say what he said prior to the election. He said that, I see what Trump's trying to do. He's just trying to protect our country. As a president, he has a right to do that. He worded it in a way where he was not against it anymore. So then the interview person brought that out too. But you said something different while he was running for candidate. He's like, no, like what I said then and what I'm saying now. To summarize it short, he said, I want to, what I said then, I didn't want the Republican Party to lose, the last thing I want to see is another Democrat in that office. So the interview asked him, so you chose your party over the country. He's like, no, I didn't. But his answer was that my party comes first before the country. That's all they care about. Like that, going back to your gang thing, like
a lot of people just are, and we've been. I think America's been talking about this a lot nowadays. This whole thing of teams.
Yeah.
Because just to be fair, the Democrat Party elected that guy Perez,
right,
who's basically a Clinton guy. And
they already elected him.
Oh yeah, he's going to be the head of the he's going to be the DNC chair. So I thought it was they're stuck in there. Bernie. No, it's supposed to be Keith Ellison, but I think the reason they might not have chosen him also, I think he's Muslim, right? I think Keith Ellison's the one that's Muslim.
I was this weekend. I've been insanely busy because it was Saturday that they voted. I think, right?
Yeah. So, but anyways, Bernie didn't like it. Bernie said this is the same old stuff.
Yeah.
Trump made fun of them. He said this is backed by Clinton. The process was rigged, just like it was rigged for Bernie.
Yeah, that sucks. But yeah, and then going back to what I was saying again about Paul Ryan. I don't know if you heard Sam Harris's last podcast yet. No. What's the guy, his guest that was on it?
David Frum.
Yeah, he said
he's
something.
The editor of The Atlantic, I think.
Yeah, and he's a conservative as well, right?
Yeah, like a lifelong conservative.
What he said something great was because they asked him if this was if Hillary was voted in the same scenario was happening with the hacks and the Russia, but it was just take Trump out and put Clinton in that situation. Would the Republican Party act the same way they're acting now and completely ignoring it? And his part of his answer was like, you got to look at the two parties. They're set up differently. One side is all old white men, that are coming. They have the same ideology. They went to the same schools, same things. Whereas on the other left hand side, you have Democrats that are different races. You know, black, white, Hispanics. You know, they're more diverse, and they come from different education infrastructure. You know, you can have some from technology. You know, tech. You can have some from lawyers, ex-lawyers, or politics, whatever. It's a more diverse group that's in there that would not. One of them would not support what's going on, you know. Whereas there's one team that's here that thinks the same exact way. They're in their own echo chambers, will never question where their party's headed because their party comes first before the country. Whereas the other side, if Hillary was doing something, at least Bernie will come out and speak against it, or someone else will come out and speak against it. You know what I mean? That's part of the biggest problem. Is the one side is not diverse at all, and the other one is.
So one thing that Perez, sorry, no, what's this guy's name?
Keith Ellison and Thomas Perez, I think, is the other guy.
Yeah. So they're saying that one of the reasons why he lost the race was because his religious faith, his affinity for the Nation of Islam in his youth, and his support for Palestinian rights alongside a secure Israel.
I kind of actually get that. I think Sam Harris talked about it too. Maybe this is not the time to have like a Muslim DNC chair, and that's just politics. I understand that, but
is he Muslim though?
Zed Jalani is the one who wrote the article. That makes fun. But
that's true because you don't want another party to fail in an election.
Yeah, because sometimes you have to look at the big picture, and I think even Muslims can agree that right now is not the best time to.
It's not the best time.
I've been thinking about we've been talking about living in a bubble, right?
He was Muslim,
and I was thinking about who's living in a bigger bubble. And Joe Rogan in his last podcast brought up an interesting point. When you get groups of people together, like in New York City, and maybe you guys heard New York City, Chicago, LA, wherever you get a diverse group of people together, they tend to be liberal or they become liberal.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how Republicans tend to be old white men, right?
Right.
And I was just thinking that it's because they're in such a bubble, they're not exposed to other people and other ideas.
Yeah.
And they stick to that. But when you get even old white people, but you get them together with other groups of people, they become liberal.
Yeah. It's when you have diversity, then you have to kind of like you have more empathy for everyone and everything.
Yeah.
Whereas so like I was thinking about it too. Like I've never, because like I'm probably not gonna explain it as well, but I really highly recommend Sam Harris' last podcast. I forgot what number it was.
It's just the newest one with David Frum.
Yeah.
We can figure out the number. But David Frum,
ever
Sam
since I started following politics since the Bush era, around like 2005, when the whole Iraq War, when Real Time with Bill Maher came out, I think in 2005, 2006, that's when I really started getting into politics because he was the first guy that was really saying things that no one else was, against both the Democrats and the Republicans, of showing how shady their practices are. And then it's kind of eye opener how the world really is. And what, like, the Republican Party, I know Democrat Party is not perfect either, but the Republican Party has more things that where they do, I find it more evil. Like voter suppression. Like they make it difficult in the South for black people to vote. What kind of person does that? Like they are a human being just like you, but you're gonna say, "Oh, it's not racism." Oh, there's been a lot of voter fraud. They're gonna spin all these fake facts or one incident, and they're gonna punish
alternative facts.
Alternative facts. Or they're gonna take one incident where let's just say someone did do voter fraud, and for that they're gonna punish everyone in that community by making it hard. Everyone needs 2 forms of ID. All right, so if I need 2 forms of ID, like where's the closest DMV? It's like 5-6 miles down. No one it's a poor community, don't have cars or whatever, so they have no transportation to get there to get the second ID. So they make it super hard for
it's a hassle.
Yeah, so what kind of person does that? For me, that has to be an evil person because you're not letting them voice their opinion. You can, instead of figuring out solutions to make the voting system more secure and everyone should have a right to voice their opinion. This is what this country was founded on.
I'm with you on this, but just the fact that the DNC colluded against Bernie Sanders, I find it hard.
That's evil too.
I mean that's literally evil. I mean, this guy was one of the coolest memes I ever saw on Facebook. Nick Johnson posted it. I don't know why, but I just want to say his name. It's just a friend I have on Facebook, and he posted a meme. He's like, "Have you ever seen any pro Hillary post on your Facebook newsfeed?"
Yeah.
I never saw one.
Yeah.
I never saw one, but she had so many votes. So how can she not, what do you mean? It was just so weird. Like, I've never seen a Hillary Clinton post. There was no passion behind her. Bernie, you would see a post by this guy or that guy.
Everyone,
people literally like getting out, like people being activists, real activists.
What I'm saying in overall, of course, everyone has done their fair share of evil, but the more I look into it, it's more on the Republican side, and the thing goes back to what the guy said best. It's just one group of ideology. There's only one class there. When you look at just recently, Trump posted a picture. I think it was last week of them signing executive order and everyone's just giving a thumbs up. It's
all white people.
White dudes. There's not one diversity in that thing. So it's just one way of thinking.
So I agree with your point, and I think you're right about the overall point. It's just that I feel like what the Democrats do is more fake too. It's
of course.
It's like they put a diversity there, but there's really not as much.
But why are they showing it too? It's like because
So
they
what
know
they're
the
showing is
U.S.
fake
is
too.
diversity, and they wanna
wanna appeal,
programming us for that. You know what I mean?
But
So both ways is evil.
Well, look, we also, I think you brought up the whole idea of team human on the last podcast.
that's what it should be.
Yeah, so, I mean, neither of them are really team human, but I agree
parties.
with you. When you read into it, it seems like Republicans are far more against team human than the Democrats are.
They're about protecting, I don't know, I guess I don't want to be whatever. No,
Even if it's a
political
facade,
correct.
right?
But right now, like make America great again. Who are they trying to make it great for? When the right side says that, they want to take it to back in the day when all, I guess white people were were the norm. There was no Hispanics. There was no black people were suppressed. That's what they want to make great again.
Yeah, where are they going back to?
Well, I've never understood going backwards. Time doesn't go backwards. Nothing goes backwards. And that video you shared with us, which we'll post
that's a good segue.
after this podcast about globalism versus nationalism, it really made me think. The last month or two has made me a little bit nationalistic. I don't know if that's a word, but at least I believe more in the idea of nationalism. And I've always been a globalist. But the more I've thought about it, I was just thinking, like, even if you are, even if the things they're saying make sense, you're kind of going against the way the universe is going right now. We are becoming more global. Are you telling me I want to make America great again and go back to the 1980s before I had this phone, before I had the ability to have this podcast and broadcast it? Are you telling me that world was better than this world? I mean, I find that argument hard. And I was just thinking, like, what can we, what is the problem? Basically, what is politics? People need shit, and politics is really a personal thing. It's about what you need. Right. You know what I mean? It's not about what you think is great for the whole. And I feel like people are lying to themselves sometimes when they think they're talking about the whole. I mean, what is the U.S.? I love the U.S., and I'm a big patriot. I would say, I think, I was having a conversation earlier. This is one of the best places in the world. But it's just a bunch of lines, man, that we've drawn. I mean, it's just like that guy was saying, like, if you want to know what I really rep, it's Chicago. That is, I would say my loyalties are probably there, then to the U.S., then maybe, or actually probably to my family first, then Chicago.
Because he said, what he gave like an example or analogy was about family members. He's like, how can you be, when you say when you're nationalist, you're not a truly, not every nationalist is a nationalist, because like if you do it to
you might be third or fourth nationalist. Your family is always going to be number one. Maybe your wife, your husband.
So for example, like
if
if you can say your mom and dad, you cater to them, then of course you're gonna do your friends and family. There's always this other level that you take out and you make exceptions for, right? So same way when you think about a country, then you have your cities and you have your states and you have the country. Now you just go one step further and make it global.
But there are some problems that can only be fixed on a global level,
of
right?
course.
So the example he gave was there was some
Yellow River.
the Yellow River in China, where there were different tribes living along the Yellow
coast.
River, and it kept flooding, and there was a lot of different problems. So they couldn't fix it as an individual tribe. They had to come together to fix the issue, build dams and do that. But if they fixed it in one part of the river, it would still overflow everywhere else.
Right.
So they had to do it together.
So let's say if they had to build a dam, maybe the tribe that was more towards the south had the technology to build a dam, but the people that were that needed to create a dam didn't have it. So like by them uniting and creating that pathway of technology to transfer allowed that structure to take place where everyone can benefit out of it and not just one person. So it all comes down to
collaborating
as
as a people.
So once again, it comes down to, like, it's not exactly
also
globalism.
resources.
yeah, and it's not just globalism versus nationalism. The answer is always in the middle,
For
right?
sure.
Yes, you need to be global on some issues, but there's always the local aspect. So
Yeah.
you can't just be globally governed. You need a local government as well. So as with most things, the answer is not one or the other. It's a combination of both.
Yeah, and I feel like to say that globalism is look. You're what I really want to finish saying in my like earlier point that I kind of lost track on was that you're fighting progress by saying that we're not global. I can talk to my cousin in Pakistan in an instant. You're telling me we're not global now, so you're gonna fight progress, or what? We're gonna just, you know what I mean? It's always weird for me to
Yeah.
fight progress, to fight what is gonna happen anyways.
Right. We don't live on one planet.
Yeah,
We're
you're,
on different planets.
yeah. It's not like, do you know what I mean? It's not like, why would you want to fight the future? So I understand that. I think that people need to focus on local problems because as people that live in Chicago and we're seeing it to go to shit. And I talk about, I think I was talking about this with you guys earlier, that, you know, the stats say it, people are leaving here. So we do need to make Chicago great again, but it doesn't mean we can't.
Great again.
No, I truly.
Are you about to run for?
I truly
mayor?
believe that. No, I don't need to run for it. I can just talk about it.
I
and
say
make videos.
I say we just make it better. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
Better again. Make it better again.
make it more.
Let's
better.
just make it better.
Maybe, you didn't
Make
say
it
more better.
best.
That doesn't make sense. But the point is that, you know, I think that people need a dual perspective where they focus locally, but still understand that we are all atoms and we're all linked together.
Absolutely.
We all started from the same place, you know. But
Yeah.
we literally are linked together. If you really want to go into it, you know, you can go relative if you want. That we are literally linked.
Yeah.
And
We
And
started
just-
together. We didn't start separately.
Right, and just because you care about Chicago at a local level doesn't mean you cannot care about the world. You can have different levels of loyalty. Like
I
you-
care about Rogers Park, which is the
Yeah.
community that I'm from. But, you know, I can also care about Chicago as a whole. I can care about the South Side, even though I have no affiliation with the South Side at
gotta
all.
feel.
I can care about the
Right.
state of Illinois. I can care about the U.S. and so on. I can even care about Mexico. Like, you know, why don't we want Mexico to be better?
Bad, yeah.
So
Why
what
would you?
Hey, and don't forget about planet Earth. You can
Planet
still
Earth,
care
exactly.
about
No, so that's where the problem
Globalism.
comes. that care can get spread thin, in my opinion. You can care about people close to us, say Southside Chicago, but then what about the Palestinians and what they're facing, the things happening in Syria? So the people that care about it on a local level can't do anything about it.
Or
You know
can
what I
they? I
mean?
mean, there's
You know
a
what I
lot of
mean?
ways to, like, for example, I have family in Texas. I obviously care about what happens in Chicago now, but because I have family in Texas, I also care about what happens in Texas, specifically Houston. And obviously, I care about the community that they're from in Houston. I have no affiliation now except them. And I think, obviously, I think you're right when those two things conflict. I think we get confused. But I think that people need to have better life philosophies. Like, we all want shit out of life, and people should be able to get it at, like, a reasonable thing. People should be able to have clean water, have clean air, be
Yeah,
able to
so-
have jobs. I mean, simple stuff. I'm not even talking about anything
Right,
complicated.
so it's, the way I see it, that there's things that we need to focus on a local level. That could be a city, state, or country, but all the biggest threats that are facing humankind and human civilization are on the global level.
Yes.
Yep.
So you
When
can't.
asteroid impact.
Yeah, you can't. There's when you say I want to just be strictly national, that's just idiotic because you're just signing your own funeral for the human civilization. Because now, if every country goes to a nationalist point of view, that we're pretty much done for. That we're out, you know, and because like what we're facing, you know, like how the TED Talks talked about, like, was the biggest two threats are global warming or climate change. That's the legit way of saying it out, and AI. Because if we all don't, as a global level, communicate with amongst the countries and say, hey, we all are signing some sort of treaty or agreement on how we need to all take this thing seriously and take a step forward. Because you could have someone like North Korea create AI first, and that does that to all of us. You know, like that AI gets so smart down the line that they start overtaking human civilizations, and there's no way we can end it. They can tap into our phones, our systems, hack everything, and control everything, you know, need be. But the future, all the biggest problems that we're facing on a global level. So why would you say let's go back to a national level? And the best thing about that, what was it, guys? The guest name?
Jovan something.
Yeah. which we highly recommend for people to look up. The TED Talk was called Nationalism versus Globalism.
Yeah, and he's the author of *Sapiens*, the
Yeah.
book. Yeah.
Amazing dude. Like when I watched that, you guys can YouTube that.
Sorry, Yuval Noah Harari.
Yeah, that dude. That like when I shared that TED Talk with you, or tech, what was it called, tech dialogue. That's a new thing that just started, where it's just one-on-one conversation. It was one of the coolest conversations I've seen in a really long time. It's really refreshing to see a different point of view about everything, and the way he just summarized everything was great. And the best thing that he talks about is any decision that you have to make about the future. Don't we all, like, just personal things, like any personal decisions that we make? If you think about it, we all kind of reflect on our history. So let's say if I got into a car accident, that because I was working too hard and I had lack of sleep. So now I know every time from that experience alone, I'm going to learn that I need to sleep more so I can avoid having accidents going forward, or so forth, whatever. So like when you can study civilizations in the past, that's all you have to do. You just study the past, and then you can come up with a solution now. If you look at any civilization that was nationalistic, didn't survive, that suffered huge consequences, that some tragedy would happen, whether it'll be naturally or within themselves, that it would undo them. They were not prepared for things, because you could have a country that's just nationalistic and they stay within their own borders, but you can have two countries that unite and globalize within their own thing. Now they become powerful, and what happens? They take over you and your resources. So it benefits everyone. Ever since World War II happened, we experienced like the worst war ever in the human civilization. So what happened after that? No one ever wanted that again. So no one even thinks about having a war. It's just the thoughts there, but no one ever wants to execute that thing. So because of that, it keeps the countries engaged in politics, and catering laws and things that no one has the right to come and take. No one's expanding their borders anymore. As soon as someone does that, US or UN steps in and stops that from happening. So like wars on that scale will probably never happen again if we continue this route.
Hopefully,
there are these micro wars that are happening within Syria and parts of Africa and parts of Middle East, but on a global level, is nothing like what we had before, and it's because of World War II changed that and won.
Proxy wars now.
Yeah, proxy wars where countries with power use the countries without power, and they use them as basically their battlegrounds.
They hide behind them,
But I feel like if eventually, if everything, it's kind of scary, but like I'm hopeful, but like when this whole mess is done and deal with this whole ISIS bullshit and Middle East crisis that we're having, that we will learn from this, and no one will want this ever again.
And I think we don't know of any entity, at least right now, on Earth that has solved global issues.
It's hard.
We would be the first
one. There's a lot of tough issues ahead of us and challenging, but it needs all the countries to collaborate and
yes. And, that's kind of like an evolution of our brain, because we evolved not to handle these global issues. We evolved just to be hunter-gatherers and solve these local problems that we compound. We weren't meant to be a global, or maybe we were, but we didn't evolve during a time where there was any global species, where there was global communication. But now we're here. And it seems like that's why it's so difficult for us to kind of understand and collaborate and move forward.
I believe we always need an enemy, and I've been, just for the podcast, we've all, I've been trying to think about, how we fix this, what are solutions. It seems like we need an other. Just like in Lost, when there's an other, you can all get together and fight them, and you can be together.
Or
but it seems like for now, or it seems like right now the other is just us, So
we need an Independence Day. What happens when the aliens land? Everyone unites,
and it's no big deal. Just like what happened after 9/11. Hey, we're all one,
Yeah.
But right now we're just in this fragmented space, and I really feel like, okay, so this is one thing I really hate about people from the left. If you think about it, they're so quick to jump on people that are wrong, that people that were Trump supporters, you didn't really know who they were until now. A lot of people were in hiding until this happened, and I feel like that's really wrong, because we didn't get a pulse of the real, like the pulse of like America. Because a lot of people that felt that way were too scared to come out as Trump supporters. If he lost, dude, I bet they would have gone back in the closet.
In the cave,
but they were getting hated on.
Yeah, and that's wrong of us too. At least you got to hear the other person out. But now that he's won, all these people are proudly supporting Trump.
But man, there is one thing. The more you read into it, because I've been going back and forth between the left and right over the last few weeks, and the thing about the left is that, yes, they have. I feel like they have so many ideas about what the world should be going to the future. They have a very future-oriented mind, whereas the right side is more just, let's just stay here.
Conservative.
Let's just stay here. Yeah. We don't need to go forward, and that's a defining point. And for me, that's when I realized that no, I mean, no matter what happens, on most issues, I know I lean left anyway, but
I'm always for progress.
Yeah. So, and what is the group? What is the group of progress? You know, when you cut it down, what is the most important thing? Because when you simplify it, if it's human progress, then you've got to realize that we don't want to go back to making something great. We want to make things how they are right now, but make it better. Move forward. You never want to go back to a foundation that you had before.
So think about it. The nerd writer video that you were talking about, that you really liked how it was done. What he was talking about when he paid for 17 different taxes. Like what was that video? The main subject on the video was that through Trump's tax cuts, he wants to take away the public art the government art foundation that the government funds. I forgot what the right name is, but like shows like PBS or BBC, not BBC, but
NPR.
Like, yeah, NPR stuff, shows like that are paid through government. It's only a 1% of taxpayers' dollars that comes out to $22 a person a year through taxes. He wants to cut that and privatize it. Once you privatize it, what happens? It goes to shit, because now views matter. Now clicks matter. You need X amount of things to keep this engine running. So what you end up turning into be CNN down the future. You have TV shows like Sesame Street are catered somehow through politics. They're not reporting the right thing or stating the right facts. They're altered to, if it's privatized, someone's controlling it, right? Someone's controlling your kids if they're controlling Sesame Street. Whoever has an agenda, it could be the Koch brothers or what's that guy, George Soros. George Soros could be the guy who's funding Sesame Street, and he's kind of putting hint of ideas in kids' heads of either leaning right or leaning left. You know what I mean? When you have the government in it, is at least neutral, and he wants to cut that out. Like I don't know, man. It just pisses me off when I see that.
Well, I guess so from their point of view, they just think that government and the people will always be corrupt, and there's really good evidence to back that up too. What is it with that quote? That
which one's going to be more though,
or something?
Which one's going to be more?
Yeah, so they have this thing where they believe in individual liberty, and that market forces or the invisible hand will guide things the right way because humans will figure out what's best. And again, the answer lies somewhere in the middle again, where humans have to definitely take responsibility. But to think that humans can't get together and have a government that works for them, I mean, I feel like that's just so pessimistic. And yeah, there might be evidence to say that government is corrupt. But even if you use that logic, you can still say that human society is better than it's ever been before. That's a fact. The technology we have, the things we have. Yeah, you can say, oh, maybe technology ruined us or something. Fine. But I mean, all the people that have jobs because of it or information, they're going to say, fuck you to you. But, it's more, I never hear about how we can improve government, how we can improve the system. I mean,
yeah, we're all kind of stuck in, our founding fathers founded this way, so we can't change it.
Well, obviously, the founding fathers did believe in government. They believed in limited government, which, by the way, is a great concept too, because it gives power to the people. Things start local, and that's an awesome concept too.
Yeah.
But to think that government can't work at all, that's really the stuff you're saying. That's behind what they're saying, and they think that the government is so corrupt. The reason they want to defund NPR and public broadcasting, basically, because they think it leans too much left. Yeah. And I think they have a point to that too, by the way, but I don't think it's that bad. I mean, like when I listen to TED Radio Hour, there's no leaning left or right. It's just about facts and cool stories.
Well, people on the right are really religious as well, right? So like when you're promoting shows like science and evolution and dinosaurs, that goes against everything that they believe too. So what we're saying is to take all that out because it's more to the left,
Mm-hmm.
And just because you don't get it, I don't know, man.
And, it's a war of ideas right now. That's where we're at. And I feel like the left side tends to, even though at the moment right now it's really pushing its agenda, right? It's like, all right, we know we're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
and they're very passionate about it, and we see it in the media. But also at the same time, you have to, I guess you do have to say there are good and bad ideas,
Of course.
right? And then when you look at it, if the left is leaning towards moving human progress forward, you got to do whatever you can to fight the right at that point.
What sucks is there's some people that don't care about that though. Fuck human progress. You know, I'm happy.
Let's
I
go
just-
back.
Not even
Yeah.
go back. I don't care about myself. I don't care where the world goes or where the universe goes. I don't care what the future entails for that. Right now, I just care about me. Some people are just that selfish.
So
Some people,
Go ahead.
haven't evolved to this level of thinking. And it goes down to lack of information. I honestly believe if someone is taught from from birth till now to think like the way we're talking about just the universe and life in general, majority of people will always agree that progress comes first.
Maybe it's not just the information. Some of these people might not be able to care about the progress of the world because they're too worried about their family's progress, putting food on the table, paying rent.
But progress will help them out too. If we all have the right intentions, when I think about human progress, I'm thinking about solving world hunger. So, creating technologies that can eradicate that for even the poor people. Like let's everyone. We can create a system where people that are not able to, financially support themselves, that the system itself will somehow. I don't know. I have this way of thinking that's the goal that we should have. It's not. Yeah, not everyone can have equal wealth or whatever, but at least as a humanity perspective, we could. If there's 1 billion cows in the world and we have more farmland to just feed the fucking cows, can we just do something different where we can feed the poor people in the same process, and cut back on eating cows? Like,
and most right-leaning people point to the money, who's going to pay for stuff, but obviously there's a cost to not having money or like having poor people too. When you have poor people, that's a big expense right there.
Right. But sorry, yeah, it is, right? But those people also think I'm only here for this journey to be a good human being, to pray to God and go to heaven. God has everything already taken care of, but He's sent me here for a test. So they're here to accomplish their test. So when you think of like that, then yeah, it makes sense. Like there is a cause to help the poor people. But if you look at it from a cosmic perspective, when you take man-made religion out of the picture, then you know that we all are hand in hand involved. We all are connected to one another. So like that bullshit of ideology goes out the window. Maybe that's my bubble.
Yeah, exactly. So the video globalism versus nationalism, I just realized that even the people that have good points, for example, they have very good points about nationalism, but then they also have to admit that nationalism is just a line in the sand that they drew. They drew a box, and then they're arguing within that box.
Yeah.
But there's no real historic evidence to say that nation states are the only way to do things.
But what's gonna fuck them over? And sorry to cut you guys off. But what's gonna fuck them up in the future is resources. At a certain point in time, everyone, if you drop borders, are gonna suffer with resources. So now, with you just look at California alone. It suffered a major drought in the last few years, right? Where they made it a law where you can't even fucking water your lawn. You can't even do that. The crops. You couldn't even grow crops. Imagine if you were a country and you're suffering this drought. So no longer you can no longer grow vegetables or grains to feed the cows that you're eating, or grow vegetables alone for you to consume. And let's say if you had some trade policies where you can't trade with your borders because you are at war with them, everyone in that country starts to die. So now your nationalist policies are gonna. You pretty much sign yourself to a doomsday eventually.
Yeah, the only good point I feel that the nationalist people have or people who are really advocates of nationalism is that we need to fix shit here. But I just feel like it's a very narrow-minded view.
Yes. And that's what I think that's what I've learned about myself, at least, is that I'm finally at a point where I'm comfortable in saying that if your points are limited to just yourself or your people, then you know what? Fuck that point. That point is wrong. At least now I can
or just admit that you're like selfish. Just if you're gonna be like that, then admit to me. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna be a little passionate about this. That you're fucking just thinking about yourself. Don't pretend that you care about other people. Then because that's all you're saying, which is fine. If you only want to think about yourself, that's fine. I mean, it's not that hard to do. It's really easy, actually.
Yeah, in fact, that is staying
very
in
simple, and it's very narrow-minded. But go ahead.
Yeah.
But don't bullshit to us and think that you have interest anything or you have interest besides yourselves.
And that's the definition of staying in a bubble, when you're selfish and you only care about your side. And when you realize that we're in a global world, you have to include everyone. And nationalism starts to become, if you're only nationalistic with no global ideas, that's a bad idea.
Hell yeah, man. And to deny the fact that like America is this land of opportunity because other people came here is bullshit. But then again, as soon as I start saying that, I still do ask the question: is it okay to have illegal like immigrants here? Is there anything wrong with wanting to get people that came here illegally out? I personally would never want to do that. I would never want to have a job where I have to force people out and move them from one place to another.
It's already started happening now, right? You heard about it?
And they're saying they're going to crack down on it. But
so here's the thing: like the Trump,
is that wrong?
I think it's fucked up because it's tearing up families apart, right? So let's say you have family. So before when they would capture a legal immigrant, it could be a 16-year-old boy, or it could be a father that has like 5 kids, and if they captured him, they would just I think hold them in for reporting, but they wouldn't deport them right away. Right now, they're just, if they capture you and they know you're a legal immigrant, they're just deporting you without looking into if you have kids here, if you have family here. Like, so they're just like, it could be a father that got stopped in a red light.
It's just a cold-blooded way to live, huh?
Yeah, you stop a father and he has 5 kids. And his mother, and they could be, ages from whatever, he has 5 kids, and you just deport him. Now, who the fuck's gonna feed those kids? You're just tearing families apart.
Yeah, the consequence is not great, but then they did break the law, is what people say.
Yeah, to get here.
So I know someone that he has like 3 kids or whatever, and he went through this process before Trump came to power. So
what process?
He was illegal,
right?
And he went through the entire process, whatever, and they saw that he had kids here, he had a wife here, he was working here, and he was doing all these things, and they gave him a visa and all that stuff, and now he's a citizen.
So when you say they, you're saying the government? Okay,
yeah.
Maybe part of some DREAM Act or something.
That was before Trump came to power.
You talking about the Obama era?
Yep.
Yeah.
Immigration is also a tricky thing. I mean,
but these are people with national views again. Then people, oh, this is my country. Like it just, you gotta look at. So it goes to resources. If you were born in a country that had no resources and you just see that your family's starving and dying here, you're telling me you're not gonna get in a fucking car and go for that border?
Yeah, but some people are just coming here, and I've met people like this before who just they just know that they can come to visit America. They can just overstay their visa,
right?
And they can stay here. It's not like they were in some great poverty. And then there's people that that came to America the right way. So what really happened is like,
but why they want to stay here?
It's almost like a childish argument, Well, not childish, but when you're a kid,
right?
Somebody did things the wrong way and you did it the right way. So you don't want them to benefit because they did it the wrong way and you did it the right way.
Yeah,
just mad.
At the end of the day, it's funny.
Like, why you mad, bro, kind of argument. But I understand why they mad.
At the end of the day, it's funny because it's immigrants fighting other immigrants, So even the people like Trump, even the Republicans, they're immigrants. Like, they forget that. They're immigrants, too. They themselves, their families themselves left a bad situation to come here, right?
It's
they themselves,
like,
the pilgrims that came to the 13 colonies, were a lot of pilgrims that left that couldn't practice their religions freely at where they were. So when they saw a land of opportunity, they got in boats and they came here. And those same people, these people that are making these laws are the same people that their family benefited from a free world.
Yeah.
And now you're saying that we need to fucking kick other people out because you disagree.
I just don't think that we should put our resources to it. But one of the funniest things that ever happened that I remember from high school was this kid was trying to make a joke like, hey man, you're an immigrant or something. And the kid was Irish. I'm like, you don't know that you're an immigrant too? It's like you're just it's just that you forget. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're Irish. You don't.
We're all immigrants from Mars, possibly.
Yeah,
literally.
And,
and people don't like to think that way, by the way. But go on. It makes people uncomfortable to think like that way. Oh, you're thinking cosmic, but actually you're right. It's a factual statement almost. Maybe not from Mars, but we are all from one.
We're all from Stardust.
Stardust.
We're all immigrants from
we
some
are from
star
Stardust.
for sure. But you know what? Why? that video that you shared, I love it so much. It just,
Which
I'm not
one?
even, the video that we watched today about globalism
The nationalists.
by Yova. Man, I can't believe I don't know
Uh,
his name.
Yuval
It's a hard
Noah
name.
Harari.
Yeah, okay, so he's been so influential in my life just in one day.
Just one day, yeah. Like
Like
when
he's, look, hold on. He's just cleared up so many things for me. Last podcast we had, I was so confused. I'm like, I'm been trying to search for the truth, and I'm confused. Like,
Right.
what is right? What is wrong? But that cleared it up for me. I'm like, let's protect our borders, but why can't we also at the same time let families in from Syria that are good? Why
Right.
can't we do both? Why do we have to only choose one
Right.
or the other? Why can't we do both? Why can't we have different loyalties?
Why can't it
we
be a
be
door?
good? Why can't we be good to our neighbors
Yeah.
and be good to the city of Chicago and the world?
You know what? When we started,
Why do we have to choose?
yeah.
You know?
When we started the podcast, I was playing a song from Turtles.
Love that song.
No,
I don't remember the name though.
Shit, man, I already forgot what it's called.
It's by Jovan.
Just
Yo,
to give people
Vol.
a background, Turtles is some band from the 60s or something that you play for your kid.
Yeah, 60s. There are people that sang "Happy Together" or "You Showed Me." Fuck, man, I can't remember the song. But anyway, it's a song about a war. I think I've sent it to you a long time ago. I don't know if you ever heard it, but they have this one line in there that's fucking beautiful. He's maybe fucking. I'm kind of like losing my mind right now, but maybe I can.
Your brain did not evolve for this.
No, I didn't. But maybe I can rephrase
Too
it.
much
But
for
he
you.
says something that, don't forget to say grace. But we, when we're eating dinner, like the way he says is like, don't forget to say grace, but make sure you hate your next door neighbor. Like, that philosophy of being religious or Republicans or conservative, evangelical religious, like everyone goes to dinner and everyone holds hands and everyone's saying grace to be thankful, but when it comes to your next door neighbor, go fuck them. Like like it comes to my local problem. Like, what kind of God has sent you here to say be gracious and be grateful for everything, but then fuck everything else? Fuck other countries, fuck other religions. Like, I don't know, man. It just makes me upset that even if you believe in God, then you should have faith in him that wouldn't Jesus want you to do the right thing? Wouldn't Prophet Muhammad want you to do the right thing? Wouldn't Moses want you to do the right thing? Like, the right thing is you saying, yeah, people should die. That's what your conclusion is. You rather not take a chance on faith, the faith that you can't even prove is real. You rather take the chance on that, but a terrorist might get into these refugees, so I don't want to let them in. But if you do by God's work, you're saving people from a bad situation. They're suffering. Kids, bring kids in at least. What harm are kids going to do?
And even doing good has its consequences, and we shouldn't lose that at all. I mean, if you're going to bring in 1 million people, statistically speaking, some of them will do wrong, and things might happen.
But if you have faith in God, you should take faith in that notion. If you,
I'm not even thinking about religion here. It's just basically, I feel like people don't know the percentages of things, like what is actually the cause of your eventual death. What is most likely? It's probably more diabetes, heart attack, getting hit by a car, maybe a fire accident, maybe drowning. But terrorist attack right now is not one of the highest things either. So it seems that fear is what we run off of, because one of the scariest things, though, is a terrorist attack could happen anywhere. It could happen in a public place, the next concert you go to. And the fear, it seems, is what drives us.
And that fear itself is causing terrorist attacks of sorts, because you see what happened in Houston. That fear of these type of people ended up killing 2 innocent people. They were Indians, weren't they?
Yeah, Sikhs and Indians are the most unfortunate people in the world, because they live side by side with Muslims, but religiously they have nothing to do with them, and they
just
get
happen to
targeted.
look like us.
Yeah, and they get targeted. But even this guy, I mean, I don't want to go too far to call him a terrorist. I think he's just a
You know what I
dumbass.
mean, yeah.
I think there's a lot
He
of dumbasses
terrorized
in
their
this world.
lives, you
Okay,
know.
first of all, it's never the smart people that commit the terrorist attack. They make the dumb people do it.
Yeah.
So, so right now we have lawyers in power, right? They use a bit of human psychology. You know who would be even better politician would be psychologists themselves, but they don't have the hunger for power in a way.
No one does but lawyers.
The only
Yeah.
thing that you should hate is hate itself, in my opinion.
Sure.
Like, I can never see myself hating anyone. Even if someone is super evil, I pity them. They might not have the right information. I might not have the right information, but I can never hate. I think the only thing I do hate is hate itself.
Sorry.
Look, politics is a psychologist's game in a way. Like you brought up fear. Fear is a primal instinct. It's very easy to kind of like use fear to get people to sway a certain way. You can very easily make up an entity that's a terrorist group and get your way. And that's what's been happening in politics.
Dude, how possible is it?
No, it's happening. It is happening. So.
I don't want to get into it because I know people get upset because there's so like I can't get over the conspiracy theory of 9/11. Or Sandy Hook.
That's one of the few things that Alex Jones is probably right about.
Alex Jones is wow.
He my boy.
I like me some Alex Jones.
Did you see the one video of Stephen Colbert I shared? Just,
it was.
Did you see it?
Oh, I loved it.
That one scene where
I loved it.
He's exploding in the mic.
They hate you.
Yeah.
They hate you. The Democrat. I think he was talking about the Democrats.
Yeah, but he's talking about I'm a human or something like that. You say
That's
something.
what a human
looks like.
Damn, dude, you're loud.
That's what a human looks like. I have red blood going through my vein. I like red meat.
Hey,
I like women. I like to jerk off. That's what I am. I am human. And they hate us.
Hey, he looks like he's about to have a stroke. It could be
He was having a stroke.
Yeah.
He was taken to the hospital right after that.
What sucks is maybe that segment is taking it out of context. Maybe you can like backtrack it, and maybe there is something profound that he was saying.
So funny like that.
But dude, it is a little out there, dude. But before I forget, that one song that I was saying is the Turtles. It's called "Eve of Destruction."
Beautiful.
But yeah, back to Alex Jones.
So Alex Jones is the type of guy that he'll hit on 1,000 different things, but he might be right about 3 of them.
But when he was on Joe Rogan, I felt like he had changed his tone from what I've heard, because I felt like he was there and he knows Joe Rogan has 90
his
million
audience.
downloads.
He was very different.
I felt like he changed it to, hey guys, I'm just like you, just to kind of get people to come in and listen to
Infowars.
it. Yeah, Infowars, and get some sort of.
We just helped him by saying that.
Yeah.
I feel like people are also like intimidated by Joe Rogan a little bit. Like, you know, I remember in the podcast he had like a Freudian slip where he was talking about, oh, Joe, you'll choke me out or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So Joe Rogan has that alpha male where he kind of brings people down a peg.
Yeah.
And they talk normally. They're not trying to outsmart him.
My life goal.
But even, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't
That's
know.
a pretty important point. Life goal.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. That's what happens when we have 4 people right now on the podcast. That's what happens. Like everybody. I don't.
Go ahead.
My life goal is to be on Joe Rogan podcast. Go ahead.
No, so I think you brought up the whole alpha male thing, and I was saying it's not even the alpha male thing. For some people, like we're all different around different people. That's just
sure.
You know, you
cater to their likes.
Yeah, you're gonna be different with your other group of friends. You're gonna be different. Everyone's different. So
I'm naturally a douche.
like when, for instance, when Neil deGrasse Tyson was on the Joe Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan was not himself.
Different person.
But
you know why? He noticed someone that is far more educated sitting in front of him.
Yes.
So he was just more of asking more curious and profound questions and going with the flow and you know and not challenging what he had to say or anything. But that just shows you like there are certain people that are just. I know like I could meet someone if I was sitting in front of Neil deGrasse Tyson. I would be doing the exact same thing, dude.
Yeah,
like, I would just be so shell shocked as someone of that. And the funny thing is, Neil deGrasse Tyson is just a communicator. He's just passing down the message that other people are doing. There are other people that you can actually meet that are doing the actual work.
Well, he's also done the actual work.
No, he has. No, I'm sorry. Not to say he hasn't.
He's like evolved now.
What's
I guess,
that?
to become a
What's that one white guy with the hair that we were talking about?
Michikaku?
No, not Michikaku. The white guy with the glasses. The one when you were studying the truth.
Yeah, I know who you're
God
talking
damn
about.
it.
The name is escaping me.
He's not a great communicator, but like to talk to someone like that.
He's a pronounced atheist. God damn it, I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Who would you be the most shell shocked? Let's say you were to interview one person. Hey, he could be.
Joe Rogan's up there for me. Too.
No. Relax.
I don't think Joe Rogan.
Let me finish my question. Let me finish my question.
Dude? Like that guy changed my life. Like
I'm saying
I'm
Jon
thinking.
Stewart.
Look, I'm thinking about it on a
Jon
level.
Stewart.
Like, okay, so if Neil deGrasse Tyson is sitting here, like I know myself,
he could be dead too.
So I know a few things. But I take a lot of creative freedom. I love bullshitting.
Yeah.
I love to just go off on tangents, right?
Yeah.
But if Neil deGrasse Tyson is there, you can't really bullshit.
Yeah.
My question. He could be dead or alive.
Lawrence Krauss, I think his name. I was trying to Google, but it came to me.
Oh, that guy's awesome.
Yeah.
Wait, he's not a good communicator?
No,
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm
He's probably
saying
just not as popular, I feel like.
Sorry, he
feel
didn't
like-
communicate that right. Go ahead, Ali.
I'm saying I'll be shell shocked to talk to someone with that magnitude of knowledge,
Yeah.
where I would have to take a backseat and just listen to everything he's saying, and like wow, like you know.
So dead or alive, one person.
Carl
who would it
Sagan.
be?
Because he's a really good communicator too.
Carl Sagan for you.
No, hold on. I take it back. You know who it is.
God.
That physicist.
Feynman?
Feynman.
Yeah, Richard
Feynman would be it. Or
Feynman.
I think
Carl Sagan too, man. Carl Sagan connects on a personal level like nobody ever.
I love
Right.
I love hearing him.
But
talk.
dude, with Richard Feynman,
Einstein
he would
too.
be sitting
Fuck
there.
that, Einstein.
Oh, of course. Richard Feynman. This is all I would say to
Isaac
him.
Newton.
I would just say why.
Adolf
And I'll
Hitler.
be quiet.
Yeah.
How?
Sir,
What? That's it.
I don't know. There's something about Carl Sagan when you hear him talk, when you hear about his like story,
I've
that
said it
book in
before.
history thing that we saw.
Carl Sagan is a god of voice.
Yeah, it's not just that. It's just the way. Go on.
I know. We're talking. No, you finish.
No, I'm just saying, just the
No,
way.
I'll finish.
Just the way.
Let me butt in.
Just the way he's explained like a lot of topics, like abortion. Like he took science to. I feel like even Neil deGrasse stays away from a lot of things, but Carl Sagan put his input into politics too, using science, and he went where a lot of scientists try not to go. And just his work, his life, it's almost magical.
One thing, like for me, I've been, we cover a lot of science topics, politics, and whatnot. One person that I was reading about, and I'm just astonished how this even was possible, came to be. You all right?
It's funny how you did that.
Yeah. It was like Adolf Hitler.
The suspense
If you
is
could
killing
interview
me.
him,
Jesus.
Adolf Hitler, someone who went and tried to completely eradicate an entire people.
He tried to take over the world. I mean, if you can say whatever you want about him, but you can't say he's not interesting.
That's what I'm saying. I'm
He's
so
evil,
interested.
but he's interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting.
I would love to talk to him.
You
Shit.
try to take over the world. Like, okay, for example, we all have our dreams, right?
Yeah.
But none of it
Was that big?
Yeah, none of it is like to take over the world. Like, you might want to be a billionaire,
Genghis
but
Khan.
to take over the world.
You know,
There's Jewish Caesar, there's Genghis Khan, there's Hitler,
Hitler
maybe
had
Stalin, I guess. But I don't know. If
things that people don't even know that much about Hitler is that he had so many problems, health problems, and his doctor was an awful doctor in the sense that he cured Hitler of one basic illness that he had. So Hitler kept him and trusted him. But this guy was giving him all sorts of drugs, like a cocktail. Coke was one of them.
Damn.
So that's why he was just so explosive at times.
They never found his body, right? Because
they say he killed
killed
himself,
but
when
they never found his body,
Allied
though.
were coming to the bunker.
people
Yeah.
also say that he just made it out.
So with a
Escaped.
guy like Hitler or Genghis Khan, they had this one very singular mind, and they could focus on that one idea that they had and take it so far, right? But when you say Einstein, you could bring him here, and with all the knowledge we have right now, I wonder where he would take it.
yeah.
So
to
that's
the
a
temple.
mind fuck.
Yeah.
I wish we could
If you-
preserve
if-
these brains.
You know, after he died, during his autopsy, that someone stole his brain. Like someone stole his fucking brain.
So we don't know where his brain is?
I think it came out in the black market or something like that. After I could be wrong. Look it up, but someone stole his brain after he
You
died.
can like install it to yourself.
No, I think he was trying to donate his brain just to be preserved and
Yeah.
whatever be studied in the future. But when they were taking his brain out, someone stole it at night or something like that.
There's a Google search that says Einstein brain teaser. Einstein's autopsy was conducted in a lab in Princeton. Harvey removed and weighed the brain at... They weighed it. It was like the heaviest brain of all time.
He'd weigh a ton. It was like a black hole.
But yeah, I would love to talk to him. I think that'd be if I could have one person. I think.
And with today's knowledge, like you
Yeah.
could present him all these facts, like you could
But
just
the
give him
Higgs
the
boson-
internet.
You can say
Yeah.
we proved his gravitational waves are
Yeah.
true.
So messed up. There's like 2 different places in the world where you can see Einstein's brain. So it's been like cut up and stuff.
Oh, they probably this auctioning it off is worth a lot of money. You know,
That's so messed up, man.
It's
That's
weird, actually. I don't know why I would want to.
He's
see
gonna
his brain.
need it in the afterlife.
it was the most. That brain just probably changed the direction where this civilization is headed. That one flesh of thing that's preserved. Think about that. You go see it in person, like that brain created because of his way of thinking. We got cell phones and computers.
Do you know
We
that?
got the internet because of that brain.
Do you know what he was doing while he was coming up with the theory of relativity?
What?
He was working at a patent office. So
Yeah.
he had a job where it was like, kind of like it was just easy work
Ideas.
for him, and while on the side he would do his work and work on his theory of relativity. So for all the people that think that you have to like invest in science and put your whole life to it,
Yeah, just
the guy had science was his side job.
paper and all it needed was a fucking paper and pencil.
Yeah,
Exactly. So when you talk about when Neil deGrasse Tyson brought up this point, like I imagine like Islam, right?
Yeah, and the golden
All the
age.
minds that are being wasted I wonder, are they really being wasted? Are they all working in a patent office? And their
Yeah.
mind is just not there at all?
What do you say?
I feel like Islam's coming around a little bit nowadays.
I think you're talking about the golden age of Islam, right? Where
Yeah.
we were just, they were just killing in terms of like technology
But
and,
they were
scientific.
They were a lot more open thinking then, though.
Yeah,
Our
so-
mindset completely
Yeah,
changed.
so
Not,
when the
their
culture
mindset.
of religion changed, when that became more dominant and science did not anymore. So you had these great innovations that were coming from there, and as soon as religion came and took over, all
You
that
put them in a
died down.
box.
So you just, what he says is like, I just sleep at night wondering if that didn't happen, what other information that we could have
So
developed that we haven't developed now. We could have probably, if Islam is 1,500 years old, we could have probably invented computers 200 years ago, whatever. Where would we be now because of that?
It also shows it's just culture because if you really think about it, so Islam was in this golden age because the culture was of knowledge, and then I forgot the guy's name, Al Ghazi or somebody took over, and it was a conquest, I think, and it became not a culture of knowledge, and that stuck with us, and somehow that stuck. Maybe there was some event that could have changed that, but it doesn't seem to be a religious thing. It seems to be a
So
culture
sad.
thing.
So-
So like religion, you can
Yeah.
transform in any way you want. You can make it
Right. So even though Einstein was in a patent office, Islam is in a patent office. But outside of that patent office, they're also in a patent office. So, but Einstein, outside of that office, there was a culture of knowledge. Whereas Islam right now has layers of offices.
I just feel like
Yeah.
I just feel like knowledge is not
Very
appreciated
small.
in the Muslim people I know. I'm not saying that it's not okay. I'm not gonna say it's for everybody, obviously, but just as a whole, knowledge is not appreciated. It's more about the problem with Islam being a way of life is sometimes if people just want to explore that way of life. And when you have something like the Hadith, which I think is 500,000 pages in length, you could study that all day. And you could study that for generations, and you'll be just so involved in that, and you won't go outside the
Explore.
religion. Because the difference in Islam and other religions seems to be the philosophy of life part, which if you just study the book and you keep coming up with new rules that, I mean, they have their own set of laws, right? So then you have to think how they came up with the laws. They invest so much time in all of that they don't have time to, like to become an Islamic scholar, you would have to dedicate your whole life to it. You would have to get a bachelor's in college, and I know people doing this. You would have to go to a school after that. You have to study for like 8 to 10 more years. You're not going to be doing science on the side after that. You're going to be just investing your whole life into this.
But
Yeah,
being subscribed to any religion, though, you're already closing your mind off, aren't you? That this is the way
I disagree
God
with that.
came. God came and made the world. It's this way. You know what I mean? They're giving you that answer, so that curiosity is gone. You have the answer. Why would you think about it?
I don't know. I just disagree with that. I feel like that we've let like a narrative take over, which is that just because you believe in religion, your mind is closed-minded. Nah, man. These people
In
who
some
believe in
respects, I
religion.
mean.
In some respects, I think it is. Isn't it?
and I'm just
I
gonna
mean, in some respects.
I'm gonna say that I've been going between both sides. I don't know. I think you know that I've always been in this point where I've always looked at both sides for the
sure.
longest time, and now I'm really okay with saying that side is wrong, and I'm very confident in my point right now. And you said that you're saying that you disagree with them, but the fact that religion conditions you, and it says it has all the answers. It's a really big.
It's misleading you, right? When
I
it says
will-
it has all the answers.
I will explain it further. The quest for knowledge actually never ends. No religious person can deny it. So it's more of a narrative thing, right? So they say, some scholars say the reason that Islam is the way it is the ulama, who are basically guardians of like knowledge. So like the ulama are basically people that know Islamic jurisprudence, and they've kind of hijacked a religion and made it very, very strict. But religion itself, it keeps going on because the information, no religious person can argue that all knowledge is in the Quran. You know why? Because we have knowledge that we can prove is outside the Quran. And even the most strictest person will admit that we are learning about, we're learning about the universe, about society. So not all of knowledge is contained in there.
But so many religious people will tell you that any question, just read the book. Everything's in there. Just read the book.
Well, I mean, if you're talking to a rational religious person that has, because
No such thing, by the way.
there definitely is such thing.
It's like an oxymoron to me.
So we'll have someone on the podcast that's both, and we'll ask them that question.
Then you're not a religious person, because religion in itself asks you to be unreasonable. You know what I mean?
And asking you to believe this.
It asks you to believe in a story outside of reason.
Do you know what's unreasonable? That you take a drug that connects you with aliens, and they all talk to you, and they tell you that there's something outside this world that you don't know what it is. Do you know what's not unreasonable? That there's lines that connect me and you right now.
What drug is that?
So you're,
I want that drug.
I really like that point because I love thinking that way too. So you're saying that reason can be unreasonable.
I mean,
in a way, like in the way we say it.
Reason's a way. Look, I just think that religious methodologies and practices can give you some sort of spirituality. I'm not saying it's needed. I'm just saying that I'm just saying if you change the narrative of like Islam, right, and you change the culture, and if the right people were talking about things like I'm talking about, and people that I've spoken to are more liberal talked about,
but how many?
That you could change
how many of those are there though?
I think there's a lot actually. I think
is it a majority?
Yeah, I think they are the majority because majority of people I've met are like that. But again, I could be in like.
But
a
that's
bubble.
your majority.
Yeah, I don't think that's
the majority of the entire.
Okay, so the majority that we're talking about are mostly
hold
uneducated
on.
people in general.
Time
How
out.
many of the majority that you're talking about are
was,
actually educated?
If that was a majority, then you wouldn't see countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Pakistan. Like you wouldn't see.
Yeah, talking about Pakistan as a big group of liberals.
Yeah,
I mean we're all Pakistani and we're liberal as fuck.
Yeah, they're
so
pretty.
4 out of 4 people here are super liberal. So there must be something about Pakistani society that and we like to think that we're just liberal because
we're
of
next
ourselves.
we're next to Bollywood. That's why.
But look,
Bollywood is dope.
Isn't it really difficult? It is for my mind. Can I be reasonable and can I be religious at the same time? For me, it's difficult because the moment I want to be reasonable, I cannot be religious.
You shouldn't base laws off it, but there's just.
But how can I be both? Like, how do I do that?
How can you be reasonable and unreasonable? Maybe there are things in the religion that are not so unreasonable. Maybe we make them unreasonable. Okay. Not everything in there is.
Here's a full stop. Is it true? Like I think majority of us can say in here that it's man-made, right? So like that for us to argue that point is unreasonable. Like like for me, I feel it is a man-made religion. So yeah, out of that man-made religion, can you find spirituality? Are there sections in that book?
Is that true? That you can find spirituality through the book?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's what I said. It is a man-made book, and yeah, there are sections in it that you could find spirituality.
But look, here's the crazy thing. Even reason is man-made in a way. Everything that we measure is with our mind, right? So it is. So every point of reason is still man-made. So like the whole thing about religion is that it came to someone in their mind, right?
Just one person.
One person, and then a lot of people connected with it for some reason, and they find some spiritual being. But what I'm saying is, like, how can you take those two different worlds and bring them together?
We know that even the people that spread...
Like, just like you can be nationalistic and globalist, right? I just realized you can be the both. I thought
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I thought you had to pick one or the other, but I cannot find a way for that. I can't find it that you can be that with religion and reason. How do you be both?
Because you just...
No, because they're contradictory. There are sections in the book that are just kind of outrageous. So are you supposed to reason with it?
I think that you have to pick and choose, and there's nothing wrong with that.
So when you start picking and choosing, then it goes to his point. How can a reasonable person pick and choose? Like,
because the mythology and practices can still be true to get you to spirituality.
So some of it's wrong, some of it's right.
So for me, religion is something like this.
And
you know what?
And what part of it is wrong? Sorry, go on.
Look, there's this one idea that like if you want to make an argument, and you make a strong argument, and then you use a bunch of weak arguments, it weakens your strong argument because somebody can attack all those weak arguments. So it's better to just use a strong argument. So I think that's the problem with the religion. There are some strong arguments, but there's so many weak arguments that you can easily attack them.
Right.
But is there a strong argument in there also?
See, so the thing is, I'm not religious. It's just that I spent a lot of time with a lot of religious people that act just like me. Yeah, it's so funny that I'm the religious person in this group, but in most groups that I hang out with, I'd be the not religious person. So it's all relative.
And you're saying the religious people that you spend time with, they've been reasonable?
They're very reasonable people.
So you have a very different experience than mine.
Yeah.
Well, how many of those people that you talk to are educated people?
Most of them.
Some of them.
I would say most of them are not. So,
Yes.
I would
Most
love
of them
for
are
me,
not.
most of them are.
so because most of our experiences are based on non-educated religious people, because the people that are educated religious people, they can talk to you about both sides of things. The people that are
Yeah,
non-educated religious people, they can only talk to you about one
but
side.
they're also picking and choosing because you can, like he said, they will have one. It's I don't know. It's like a catch-22. Yeah, they're open.
It's not just picking and choosing. It's also a narrative thing, right? So some
Yeah,
people see it all as doom and gloom.
there's-
Some people see as humans as just naturally flawed. So you're always gonna sin.
So forget everything. Is there a strong argument? Is there
There's
there
a-
something super profound in religion that we can all connect
Yeah,
with?
they can say to it, then I'm gonna convert right there and then. Can they say something like that? For
Forget
me,
that it says that
there isn't
females are less than us. All that. Those are weak arguments. Forget all that. Is there a
I don't know.
core?
Females being less than us, again, it's all a matter of interpretation. If you interpret that in the West, it seems like a bad thing. But even conservatives can agree that when you say less than us, it doesn't mean they're less human beings. They're magical human beings. But to say that if I fought a girl, that she could beat me up, that's just insane too. That's
Ronda
just
Rousey.
as unfreaking reasonable.
Here,
You're talking about an exception.
no, I'm not. Yeah, I want to say an intelligent being such as God, would that knows all and sees all and knows the beginning and end. How can he fuck up so bad where he didn't care that? Why didn't he understand there'll be so many different interpretations in his book? That why didn't he just make it so simple? Why doesn't the answer come to everyone?
So why it's not easy?
No,
Look,
why
do
because
kids have eggs?
the answer is easy. It's man-made. A man wrote that book and he screwed up. If an intelligent being was writing this book, if you were God and you were writing a book and you know the beginning and end and every instant that's ever gonna happen, you didn't see a flaw that of people will read this book 1,500 years later and gonna argue and go to war over segments. You're gonna have Shias and Sunnis.
Hold on. I just want to say that it is an intelligent being that wrote that. For instance,
Pretty
that's a-
intelligent.
Pretty intelligent.
I mean, you can say whatever
That
you want about it.
that
But
you got,
pretty,
you got
no,
a
but
billion people to follow you.
but if a-
Muhammad,
yeah.
No,
I mean, a pretty intelligent thing that's written
Moses?
there. I mean, you got
no. Look, what I'm trying to say.
Sumerians, pretty intelligent.
pretty intelligent.
But if it was God himself that wrote it,
Yeah.
he would not have any flaws. Because if he's that intelligent,
Why not? Why can't God have flaws, by the way? Why can't someone higher than us
Because
still
the
have
book
flaws?
itself, it says that.
No, first of all, that's disputed too.
Okay.
That's also disputed. It's just a narrative that we've always been told, so we believe it. A Pakistani narrative that we have that
So
we
you're saying
always
there's nowhere
believe.
in that book where it says
yeah.
that.
So I believe that I'm a god. I really do. I think I'm some. I think we're all some kind of god-like
It's not an
being.
intelligent God.
No, I think we're all.
or we'd all follow you.
I mean, that we're actually going towards that we might evolve into a godlike being, that we're in this chain, makes me feel like that we're on that path. So we are part of God in a way. We don't have all the answers, but we do. So the idea that why does God have flaws? We have flaws.
What's wrong with having flaws, though? Why does so this thing about being perfect? By the way, the book that I got that from is Reza Hassan's book, No God But God, where he argues that this concept of the Quran being infallible is kind of new. Actually, it wasn't always like that, you know. So this concept that we have that we get stuck on, if you get beyond that concept, then you can maybe understand it better.
So wait, like a
what do you-
mistranslation? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I have to go back into it and
But
read
here-
why
here-
and whatnot.
Do
but
you feel like that book is man-made? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yes.
yeah, probably.
But
Okay,
I also
But
think
then our arguments are stupid.
I also-
No, it's not. It's not. It's just my opinion.
Because we're defending something that's not true. Like, what the fuck?
No,
Hold on,
no.
hold on.
We're just
Hold on.
defending another point of view, which is
Hold-
there's nothing wrong
hold
with
on.
that because we have our own flaws. Maybe we're stuck in our own ways. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Hold on,
Look, there's
Matt.
4 of us agreeing on one thing, so there's something wrong with it right there.
so. Back to my crazy point that we're God. So if it's man-made, it's also God-made in a way.
Right.
So there are weak arguments, and everything that you're saying, all the false things, those are all the weak arguments.
Right.
But there are some strong arguments. You know what that is?
What?
That there's something greater than us. The universe is greater than us.
Right.
There is something greater than us. We're not all it. We're not everything.
Right. No, I
That-
agree.
So are there other strong arguments like that? Are there other facts that are true in there? Are there more profound, pieces of wisdom that we're overlooking just because of all these
I'm
weak
sure
arguments
you
and
can,
we're ignoring
You can
them?
read philosophies have wisdoms that don't ask you to follow you. Then Socrates doesn't say follow me because I have wisdom that I'm passing down to you. There's a lot of philosophers that have written some profound stuff that don't ask you to follow them and say, oh, they're a prophet or anything. Yeah, it has something. It has great things in there that are spiritual that you could follow as a good practice of being a human being. I'm not denying that, but in general itself, it's completely man-made. The fact, there's.
But why is that a negative though? I feel like you're using it as a negative.
Negative, it would be that once you say this book is it comes from God and these are all the answers to life, you robbing curiosity from each kid that is born.
What if that book said to be curious?
Then it's just funny that the irony that is that it turns out that it's
some books.
Yeah, so if you talk to a liberal Muslim, again, the problem with so this is the example that I love. If you talk about the U.S. Constitution, how many pages is it? If you can Google it, it'd be nice. But I think probably 8 pages. I think.
Yeah.
I think the U.S. Constitution is 8 pages long, and there's Supreme Court, there's judgments, there's super smart people in this world that argue about those 8 pages.
Yeah.
You take a book that's like what 300 pages at least, maybe 3,000 when you combine the books of like Hadiths, 500,000 pages.
Yeah, but Constitution is a man-made product that it's saying, but you're saying a book came from a message from a God. That's a different that should be evaluated at a much higher level than your Constitution that was written by men.
Okay, but you let me finish my point, which was that interpretation on those 8 pages is so hard. So if you took that and you extrapolated it to 300 pages, how hard would it be to get the same thing? It's also written in this strict language. My point on like religion is we get so caught up on hating it that we don't.
I appreciate parts of it, like I said in the last podcast, where I felt that that spiritual sense of like bowing down to a God, and there is a creator, and then you're appreciating him for giving you existence and everything in it. There is something magical and spiritual about that. But what I don't like is what I hate out of it is that it robs curiosity out of everyone. You can say, oh, maybe it's not in there, but yeah, it is doing it though. Like not only Islam, but every religion that robs you curiosity and doesn't let the human beings fully explore their full potential. It takes that full life experience away. Yeah, you're in a spiritual sense of zone, but you haven't tried anything else to say that it's also spiritual. So you're locked in a set of ideas that will tells you that you're gonna burn in hell. Kids are gonna burn in hell that don't practice this.
So I just try to give the other side of it, I guess.
Here's the other side. I'm sorry. This is the part that I hate the most. And yeah, I'm gonna say I hate it because it fucking pisses me off. Like when so Devon Street is in a place in Chicago where it's multicultural, heavily. Communities are dense with Indians and Pakistanis, but there's a part, like Patel brothers. There's a thing, and when I was parked by there, like a few years ago, when my mom was doing grocery shopping, I was helping her pick up some things, and you can see families of like different cultures of Indians that are coming out of it, and our book says that any non-believer is gonna burn. So I see little kids and like why do they gotta burn? Like what the fuck?
Yeah,
what kind of book or God emphasizes that? It's not even. They didn't
especially
even choose.
when you're born into this religion.
Yeah, they didn't. Even choose.
So this is my problem with that. We're just putting human values on God, right? Or we're putting our human values of what kind of society allows anything to suffer, right? Everything there. Okay, so this is my. Okay, first I just want to answer that one point. So I have brought that up to my more religious friends who do have faith in God for sure. I mean, they don't practice all the time.
And they'll have some cater argument that says that's not true.
But they say to me, they're like, dude, of course we're gonna explore the world. They're like, our knowledge is not limited to what's in the Quran. It tells us to look further and find more answers. I may seem like an apologist, but I'm just telling you the answers they give me. And right. I just feel like someone who doesn't believe in religion, it's just so easy to paint them as irrational people.
So why?
Like we figured it out, they didn't. We got some spark in our brain that they didn't, or maybe they got an additional spark that helps them figure out the next level of things.
Don't you think?
Yes, and I want to say this before I forget it.
Yeah.
And this is the point that keeps me up at night. It's the assumption that there is a God. And it's the God that we see in the Quran, in the Bible, and all the religions.
Abrahamic one especially?
It's an Abrahamic God. He's evil. There. He's greater than us. He's been trying to speak to humanity for a long time. And every time he speaks to somebody,
it's one person.
They can't put it into words. You know what I mean? Like you were talking about mistranslations from even Arabic to Urdu or English.
Very hard to do. To translate
Even that you can have a mistranslation there. And that's what keeps me up sometimes, that there is a God and he just cannot communicate with humanity.
I have trips and I can't explain what I'm feeling.
But all these Abrahamic
sure.
religions also have that question of burning in hell. Like,
Yes,
you know,
that's-
we got on trips before, and then you get this profound experience that you are in touch with God
feel
and some
nothing
sort of
but love.
spirituality, right? And there is no message that I ever received of hate, of fire, of burning kids that were born in a different religion.
Well,
Just because of where they
felt
were
hell.
born, location-wise.
I have felt hell on shrooms before. It was.
I felt hell.
Yeah.
Because I was
Yes.
thinking about it. You know.
Now
'cause
that I
was
think
a-
about it, I have.
Yeah,
I
think
felt both sides.
We felt our fair share of hell.
So now
Yeah,
you're...
so it's not. Again, life is. It's just this weird thing. There's no.
Yeah,
there's
but
no
no,
such thing as
but
just
no
love.
one's saying that
You
someone
don't come out with that
yeah,
message, though.
Yeah, at the end is always love. Because why? We felt hell, but yet else we still go back to it.
But Ali,
Because there's
there-
more love to it than
but
anything.
exactly, but there is love and there is hell in the
course.
Bible, in the Quran.
Even in daily life. Okay, for example,
Dude, like
you said.
we talk about it when you go on those profound trips. We can't put it into words. I
Yeah.
can't put it into words. What if these people couldn't put it into words and
Well,
there
here-
is a God?
Here,
I can never argue there isn't a God. I can just argue there isn't no Abrahamic God.
So because you have a kid,
Yeah.
you actually signed up for hell because having it is love, but losing him, losing her.
I think I talked about it before, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's a point that
love
you
it-
brought up.
Love is
So there you go. You got hell and
waiting for you.
And yeah, you got hell waiting for you. That could happen. My thing is, okay, so this is my thing. I don't really believe in religion, but my point is that we put human values on something that's supposed to be godlike. For example, people get very scared at the fact. Again, we're kind of biased here because we come from a Muslim cultural values. So we talk about more on those podcasts, more Islamic, I guess, cultural values. But you know how they say that you'll lose a hand if you steal? So
Yeah.
people in like America say that's barbaric.
Yeah.
But if you have three people, you know, it's just a disincentive not to do something, and maybe it's a good one. It's fucked up, but I've actually met Americans, white people, who have not read Islam say, "Hey, man, if you fuck with something of mine, I'll kill you." Like if you know,
Right.
like for example, if you trespass on someone's property,
Yeah.
they have the right to shoot you to kill you.
Yeah.
So that's pretty violent in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just how you see it. I just feel like the way we come up with it with a negative mindset instead of a neutral mindset,
Yeah, but
and it might
here-
be negative. It's just that we're stuck in our way too.
So why is a country that's the closest to God in Saudi Arabia so much?
How are they the
No.
closest to God? That,
No, no,
see,
no,
that's
no,
wrong
no.
to say. You're the way
No,
you started
just-
that.
That's a story.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm saying the people that are close. If
They
you're
are an extreme sect of Islam, by the way, of not just Islam of humans. Those motherfuckers are the worst.
Yeah, I wouldn't even
Out
say
there.
extreme extreme case of Islam. You know what I was thinking? I feel like Hasban, you're already kind of there, and I've been trying this thought experiment because I've already felt the science and liberal and progress and science's fact side of it, reason side of it. I've already felt it. So you might think like, why do I sound so different today? I don't know if you're thinking that.
You drank too much water.
Yes, that too, and also because I've been rereading the Quran
Right.
with a different mindset. I've decided that I'm gonna immerse myself in it just to see the
Just
other
to
side.
see what it is. Yeah.
I'm not gonna mock it. I'm just gonna think like I'm in that world and immerse myself. And when you try that, you start to have a different perception of things.
Why not go read some failed theories too, and with a different mindset?
I've already done that.
No. I'm talking about like actual scientific theories that have been proven
Oh,
wrong.
that too. That's also good.
Why not read those and just different thing with a different mindset of like 1600s when we were thinking about how the sun, the Earth is the center of the solar system. Go read those and actually immerse yourself in that, and let me see what you come out
Man,
with.
I'm
At
just
the end
down
of the
with
day,
religion.
at the end of the day, you're gonna hit a fact, and that's gonna be reality. That no, the Earth is not the center of the solar system. The sun is. Same thing. It sounds cool that you're doing that, but for me, I feel like you're gonna hit this
Wasting your
line.
time. No.
You're gonna hit a line where facts are facts and reality is reality. And I know truth is hard, and we've been talking about it a lot in the last few weeks.
I'm just saying,
but
take a neutral point of things. Just don't. I'm not even saying that one thing is right. Another. I haven't
life
said
is
that.
short to begin with. Don't waste your time.
I mean, I
Don't waste I'm not gonna go explore devote my 10 years of my life and trying to understand how maybe the Earth is a center or Earth is flat. Well,
Yeah, but if you enjoy something.
That's a very proven fact that you can do with reason.
Yeah.
But when you go back and read the Quran or Sumerian text, anything,
Yeah.
it's so philosophical
It is.
and it's so like you don't have to take it literally. You can take it as like a poetry or something.
Right.
Yeah, or
And
maybe just a work of art.
And just feel it. Like, what are you feeling? Like, what feelings are you getting? And what can you interpret from those feelings?
Right.
I think it's pretty interesting. I don't think it's a waste of time.
Yeah, and when you look at it that way,
But
it
why
is.
does it have to be a waste of time anyway? Isn't all of our time technically like wasted anyways?
It
There's really
is.
no purpose,
There's
right?
there's a lot of time that I do that I waste too, so and I'm being hypocritical. But I feel like where I see, like, for me, I never look the world or universe from my view. I always look at it from a human perspective, and I feel if we voice that and cater to that, then we're gonna segue into the wrong direction and waste a lot of times for problems that are really at hand that we need to solve. And for me, like we talked about it before off here, that I feel something's got to give out of this. Maybe it doesn't. Yeah, I know it doesn't. I know for a fact because the universe is not there for us to understand or caters to us. But there's this hope and feeling maybe if we as a human civilization come together and figure out what the fuck any of this is, maybe that has a greater purpose than going and feeling spirituality. Maybe it is creating AIs and sending them off to the universe.
Yeah. So the thing that
I haven't figured it out.
So the thing that I want to just say straight is I do believe that the world should be secular. People should be able to believe in religion, but religion should definitely not run society. I definitely do not believe that.
Neil deGrasse Tyson says the best. Like, everyone can believe whatever they want, but when it comes to the point of
policy and stuff,
policies and running places, then that's where he got to step in and you got to correct people.
I mean, a lot of the talk that we talked about earlier, and I was telling you guys this, I thought I'd save it for the podcast. Lately,
I've on the podcast.
Well, okay, that's why I was going to say it now. But like a lot of this, if you read about how the atoms that form life, the atoms and the molecules that form life actually originate from the sun, and then you start thinking about more and more about it, and how we are basically stardust, and you go even more into it and say that we are the universe. I mean, there's no doubt that we are the universe. We're a part of it, right? We're actually the part of the universe that can feel, or I mean, we're not the only part, but I mean, animals can also do that. And then I was just thinking about how we don't want to leave. We don't want to leave the universe and go on to the next phase. We don't want to die. I was just thinking that really you could think about it as you thinking it, or you can think about the universe actually thinking that. Everything I'm saying right now is I'm actually a voice.
Wants to die.
I'm a voice of the universe right now, and so are you.
Yeah,
we're parts of it right now, and I feel like the universe is thinking through us. We don't think about it like that often, but there's no doubt that we are that. Factually, it's correct. But it's boring to think about. Humans don't want to think about it that way.
It's not boring at all.
What's
to me.
boring?
I guess it's not boring to me, but I guess it must be boring to a lot of people. Because exactly. Most people don't want to think about it like that. That we are
like right now. You are the universe talking.
It really is. It's a mind fuck and a half, but it's the truth, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything factually incorrect about what I'm saying?
Everything.
There's no, there isn't. And the idea that we were just talking about, that we must think with reason. The universe is not there for us to understand.
Yeah.
That's unreasonable in a way. So what's been interesting to me has been going and thinking about things that are unreasonable,
right?
And thinking about what if there are parts that have no reasonable sense, but there might be something in our mind. Is it possible that we can get to some kind of thing that's reasonable, that's unreasonable to us right now, right?
Yeah.
But we go deep into our mind and it starts to become reasonable, and that we have to meditate. We have to get to some kind of conscious level where things become reasonable. Unreasonable things become reasonable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds crazy, but
that's the one thing that comes to my mind is a picture I shared with this morning about the slavery thing.
Yeah.
It was a poster that
unreasonable.
Yeah, it was advertisement, but back then it was reasonable.
Yeah.
But now we've evolved to a point where that's an unreasonable way of looking in life. Where that poster was selling, it had like 15 people on that list that are supposed to be, farmers and whatever. When you look at that, it just breaks my heart. Like, that's how backwards we were. We've come a long way too, but like, there's something inside of us that was that evil.
You know what's really sad?
Well,
so I guess evolution is reasonable, but it's cruel.
Yeah.
Nature is cruel, but it's not reasonable.
It's cruel. It's the most harshest thing that we ignore and make it normal. Like eating animals, killing killing other animals is reasonable at the moment, but it's really not reasonable. Like we're torturing and killing other.
Right.
And every time I still eat them. Dude, the other day, my mom did a whole bunch of groceries, and so she wanted me to help take down and put they pretty much bought like a bunch of like whole chickens and lambs and whatever. It was like a box full, and she told me to go put it down in the freezer. As I'm putting them, I'm like, holy shit, I'm putting limbs inside a refrigerator that we're gonna eat later. It's the most terrifying feeling that I had. It's a dead thing that I'm just housing in this cold thing that's gonna freeze the shit out of it. I'm gonna defrost it later and eat it. It was the most barbaric feeling that I could have. This thing was once alive. It had feelings. It had thoughts.
Dude,
Life eats life, man.
Yeah.
life eats life.
But
life
like
eats
I was,
life.
like,
Life eats life.
like-
Life eats life.
Yeah.
That's really the only. And
But I can't picture if you imagine that being a bag of human beings, then you just start throwing up everywhere. You know what I mean? If you can imagine those
I get
bags are,
hungrier.
Dude, Ali, so you admit that life is cruel.
of course.
Nature is cruel.
Why can't
But
God?
you wanna go against it.
If God is nature, what if he is cruel?
He is cruel.
Then what if God is communicating through us religion and we're saying that, wait, religion cannot be true because it's cruel?
So why has he stopped
First of all,
communicating?
being cruel is not a reason it can be true. It's just a reason we don't like it. That's just two different
Exactly.
things. That's what I always say. I'm like, just because it's evil and puts women down is not a reason to say it's not true. Facts can be a reason to
There
say
you
it's
go,
not true.
Ali. What's your rebuttal there?
No, I was thinking of something I was going to say. I didn't hear what he said. Can you repeat
So
it?
what he's saying is that just because something is cruel
Jesus.
doesn't mean it's not true. So for instance, I know
Okay.
we both think the same way. There are things in religion that are cruel. That means it's not true,
Right. So if it is,
but it could be true.
if there is an entity that is cruel, I don't want to worship it.
There you go.
Go.
That's
burn
a good point, but
go,
it could be
go-
true, though.
Go burn me in hell. Go
So-
make me torture me for the rest of my life. I don't care. I don't want to worship you.
That's
cool.
awesome. So
That's
you
awesome.
can.
Nothing wrong
That's
with that.
absolutely perfect. So now we just realized that you admit that it could be true,
Right.
but
I'm
you
not-
don't appreciate that God or
Right.
that truth.
Okay. So
Holy smokes!
So
but you're
like-
fucked.
I'm fucked.
No offense, a God. Hey.
So I just put this on the TV. I was watching. The problem is we kind of just and you shared the video, which I haven't watched yet, but I was watching Contact yesterday, the Carl Sagan book that was turned into a movie. That he made this movie,
Oh, I never seen.
and this is the opening scene of the movie, just the first scene,
Yeah.
where he does a zoom out of the universe. He starts with the Earth, and I just put this on as a background. I guess everything just stops being so meaningful, even religion,
At
when
this
you
point,
think of the scale.
yeah, when you get this far, when the Earth disappears.
Well, this is nothing. It just keeps going. And then my friend was like, I was watching with my friend, and he was like, "What is the stuff next to the other stuff?" Because he's like, "Okay, I get it. They're showing a galaxy, but then what are those three things that also look like galaxies?" I'm like, "That's just one cluster."
Yeah.
He's like, "What?"
Yeah, the craziest
love
one is
this.
the one that you shared a long time ago. The cosmic scale where it zooms back to everything that we've ever seen.
so this is something like that too.
Yeah,
the
but
non-observable universe.
yeah, but that's a more
Edge.
modern version of what you shared.
Yeah, I just like this one because this is actually the beginning of a movie. So I just imagine like Carl Sagan being given like a bunch of money and them saying make what you want, and he made this, and this is probably my favorite
This is
sci-fi movie.
This is beautiful. So as we're watching this, so first we saw the Earth and it zoomed out into the cosmos and it's zooming past all these planets and you're seeing stars, seeing the galaxy, and then you're seeing an infinite galaxies. And my ego is just melting away as I'm watching
Like,
this.
doesn't it? And I feel like you have to watch it like once a month or something because if you don't, you forget.
That should be a religious
Dude,
practice.
I'm watching this video right now and we're zooming beyond and we're going into a million galaxy, and guess what? I feel like I don't exist anymore. My ego is completely gone.
How can you
I'm not
think that
here
you're
anymore.
anything anymore? I mean,
Dude.
but the scale of things is also just scary. I think it's like
No,
I-
man,
I-
it's beautiful.
it's beautiful, and
I don't exist anymore. It's beautiful.
So right now they just zoomed out to the Milky Way galaxy, and then you're like, holy shit, that's just the Milky Way galaxy.
Wait,
and then you
what?
just see that it's just a cluster of galaxies. You're like, what the fuck?
Are you serious? That was just a Milky Way
that
galaxy?
was just the Milky Way. Now see, this is I guess that's like Andromeda.
Andromeda
You'll see-
galaxies.
Yeah.
Oh my
And then you'll see the
God.
cluster, and you'll see that it keeps going out, and the more it zooms out, you're like,
Dude, I could have sworn we were at the multiverse by now.
no, now you're actually in the cluster of galaxies, and you see the other galaxies outside.
Okay, so now not only do I not exist, I don't even know what's beyond that. Like, what happens after I don't exist?
It's just so
like, what's the next stage of non-existence?
As
That's where I'm
powerful
at.
as powerful as our minds are, we cannot actually grasp this. I can watch I can watch
Of
like a
course
three.
not.
Yeah, I can watch
No
a 3-minute
idea.
video, get a sense of the concept, but then I lose it really easily.
Yeah, because you evolved to grasp
Look at the
like
ending, look at
nuts
the ending.
and grapes,
Look
and
at
you
the
were an
ending,
ape in the
You
jungle,
gotta look at the ending.
and now you got to understand this universe and this multiverse and what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
It all came out of her eyeball.
Like we came out of a jungle, like this little monkey came out of a jungle, and now we're supposed to understand the multiverse.
Yeah, I mean, like it's pretty nuts to think that that we wanna like understand it, and I just feel like people need to understand how small we are all the time. Like they need a reminder. Why did they need that? Because we can't grasp it for a long time. I mean, the pettiness, the ego, just the stupid shit that we do, really just.
Dude,
It goes away, man. Really, I watched this right now and I was like, "What the fuck are we talking about?" Like, what?
Man, you just mind fucked me, by the way, just by showing me that
By the
video.
way, that's a great movie. You should definitely watch it.
I don't think I'll ever be the same. I think I'm gone for the week, and now
Yeah.
I don't exist anymore.
It's on Netflix now. That's why I recommend
My
it is on
ego is
Netflix?
completely
What
gone.
is it called?
It's
Contact.
I've never seen it.
So it's by Carl Sagan. It's my favorite sci-fi movie. Matthew McConaughey, Jodie Foster, got good actors and everything. Carl Sagan. It's a
first time
perfect
I've ever heard
production.
it.
I just
Hey,
want to
hey.
say, by watching that video, I became super global, and I became very liberal.
Yeah,
I'm back to my
Right?
roots.
but then, what you're really doing is you kind of go out of the normal reality because you live in a reality, then you visualize a reality, but you live in one reality, you visualize another. But that's also the fact. That's also a fact. I mean, no Republican is even denying any of this. You know,
Multiverse confirmed,
She.
in a way, sort
Can,
of.
I wanted
Forget
to
the multiverse. Just our universe is big enough. I feel like we always have to take it to the next level.
We
But even
gotta.
just our universe is big enough for me to be mindfucked.
Dude, the fact that we evolved in a jungle and now we can even perceive or think about these things, isn't that a mindfuck in itself? That we're thinking about these?
And that we
Ideas?
are the universe thinking about these things. So the universe,
it's
it's
self-reflecting itself.
Yeah, it's like it's doing it itself, and
Yeah.
it's and if you think about the
universe
theory
is-
of complexity is the only thing that ever made sense.
The
to me.
universe is trying to understand itself, and that's
Absolutely.
through us.
What
Like,
did a single cell think about? If anything, did it only think about that single cell itself?
I think we talked about it before. Once you pass all the survival phases that you got to think,
At first, it's just survival. There's nothing else to think about.
Then once you can get comfortable as we are, where we can just right now just cross the street and there's fast food open so many blocks, we can just go fucking eat. We don't have
Right.
to go hunt anywhere. Once we have all these access, what do we get to do? We get to explore our minds, which we're doing right now.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
Thank God for that.
A lot of society right now is just exploring mind. Like people think you have to work and stuff, but what are we really doing? We're just exploring.
Exploring our. Hey, I want to say something about. I had to go use the bathroom, but about going to the God thing. You know, maybe God is talking to us, right? And maybe He is communicating to us, and we're all getting the message wrong, right? So yeah, these messages are wrong. So like the way.
we're not wrong. We're misinterpreting them. I
Yeah,
think
so let's
we got it
miscommunication is
right. So if He's saying 1 + 1 is equal 2, and we're saying 1 + 1 = 0. So there's definitely big flaws in the books that we're choosing our lifestyles to be. So we should wait. We should say there is a God that's trying to communicate with us, but we're not getting the right message. So let's stop at all these books that are not true, and let's pursue our connection with God and try to get the right answer.
God should talk to all of us.
You know what I mean?
Dude, what if? Okay, so just imagine that you are God. That one day, that your line in a billion years will one day become God.
Yeah.
What if you are yourself? You are God talking to yourself, but you don't have the communication tools or the understanding to understand what you're saying to yourself.
But what kind of God?
But in a billion, no, that's you though. But in a billion years, you will have the brain to understand what you yourself are saying to yourself.
But going back to your other logic,
I think I'm
where
going
you
crazy.
yeah, because
At their point, there's a bigger God than.
yeah, I was saying when we say God, what kind of God are we talking about? Like, because when we say God, for me, is Almighty. You know, it's a Creator.
He knows everything,
It's perfection. It's a perfection. You know, so you're talking about a guy who coded. You're creating a game. You coded a game. You're saying that you can tell your character what to do. You know what I mean? That there's some flaws, there's some glitch or something that you can't fix. That you created a game and you're telling all your characters, there's
Yes, actually, yes. Because you can program the character to understand to a certain degree. But then as you become a better programmer, you can program it to a further degree.
Right.
So that character can have better AI. It can
Evolution.
interact better.
That's a good answer.
So now I'm thinking like, Ali, just imagine this.
Right.
I really believe we're God. I don't know why.
Right.
I think
No,
you
like-
and me are
I
God.
I like that idea.
Not in the sense that we're God right now, but we will become like
God.
our lineage.
Yeah.
Like, do you believe you are a single-celled organism in a way? Because
So-
you
Right.
came from it, right?
So are we
Right.
the child of God
But
right now?
isn't it
No,
more?
you are God. Okay, let me just
Here.
finish this rant real quick because I really believe it's true for some reason right now. Like, if you believe, you have to believe you are a single-celled organism because
Yeah.
you were at one point.
Yeah, that we
So-
are part of God right
Yeah.
now.
So, but with time, as time move forward, today you're this human. You have this brain. Now, fast forward billions and trillions of years, you yourself, your line might become something that's brain has evolved so much it can understand the universe
So
perfectly.
as a
and
species,
you're a god.
so as a species right now, we're like a kid, and then eventually become adults or gods.
Or forget species. I'm talking about life itself. Think
Like
of
you-
life as a
you-
species,
like you-
one big universal species.
It's like you get to a point of Matrix where you meet, like, you go to a section where you meet the key maker, the guy that makes keys to all the parts of Matrix. Like you get to the point where he gives you a key and you unlock this door and you walk in and you're a god.
Yeah.
And you no longer are anything biological, or you just turn into code, if you will. You walk in and you just turn into a fucking.
So there's
Yes.
no singular God still.
There is,
I-
but
for me,
I mean, there
the-
could be. There could be.
The way we talked about it is
Keymaker.
it's a gradient. So you go from from light to dark. So we're in a dark stage right now, and as you move your stages up and up, you get more light, you get more wisdom until you turn into pure light, which is God. You turn, so it's just a gradient of colors. So you move in stages and you move up.
But wouldn't God know everything? Why would
Yes.
he put something such as afterlife in
Because
the
okay, so here's what I see. What is the only thing separating you from God? It's time. That's the only thing separating you. If you could just fast forward in time, you would be God right now.
But then God is a creator, right, of everything.
Is a creator of itself in a way. It's like a circle. Think about yourself.
But then
Life itself is God the moment it's born. The only thing that's stopping it from being God is time. Because with time, it will become God.
for me,
Because it will reach that level of complexity.
For me, I just we talked about it before, but not in detail in podcasts. But I envision just darkness and light. Like it's just a scale, and there is no one God. Because once you get to the pure lightness, you are one. You become one God. You know what I mean? If we all make it there together, if I make it, now, you make it later, we just become one. You don't become two gods. You don't become 10 gods. You just become one God. You
Right.
just become this pure light and this pure energy that it's it's a creator of everything.
Right. There's 7 billion humans. You bring them all together, it's one humanity. It's one
Yeah.
human race.
I think one time when we were doing our trip, the best way we kind of build this theory further, and the way we said it is like maybe we're in a computer, and we get to a point where we leave the computer, go into the plug, and we come out of the port that the computer's plugged into the other dimension, and we step out and we become that being.
Oh man,
That's
so awesome.
We left that computer because it's plugged into somewhere, and we travel through the cord that's plugged into that plug, and we walk
Right.
out of it, and
we
that
become the source.
yeah,
That
and we come in. So imagine, like we have all these plugs for electricity, right? Something comes out of it. They came out of the other dimension to ours,
Oh, man.
and we're just having a podcast.
That light and dark gradients thing you said.
Yeah.
that was beautiful.
Yeah,
So I'm imagining so you said that it starts from darkness and then it goes all the way to light.
yeah,
So that even light is also dark at one point.
yeah. You would want to be the brightest of the brightest light.
So
That's
who was
the
the first God?
So light was
for
darkness.
me,
and darkness
it'll
is
just
light.
be always just be light. It's a balance of light and darkness, and you just have this light that always just shines on top, and
It wasn't always light, right? You said it was darkness at one point.
yeah, that my theory
You
has
said
changed.
it's so. Wait, so what is your theory? Because I like that it was dark and then it's a gradient and it gets to light.
Right.
I like thinking of that as
No, I'm saying
I
they
even
bo-
see it as non-complexity
I-
and then becoming complex
I
right at the top.
I say they both exist. You know,
Yes.
it depends on what frame you're born into.
So what's separating them? Time. If you
light?
think about it, or what's separating light from dark? Time.
Yeah.
Or
The more time you have, the more. Yeah. So if you look at the universe, which is the bizarrest thing, why is our universe completely dark, filled with light bulbs? Why is that? Why is there a constant battle of light and darkness? You know, what light is wisdom, light is knowledge. The more our brains pursue light, the more knowledgeable we become. The more sympathetic we become through other ideas.
Yes,
and people.
or even
So you start progressing as a person. The more information, the more knowledge you take in as a person, the more you grow and progress. And the more you progress, you create rockets. You create you create theories. You answer theories of relativity. You have Einstein. You have this innovation of technology, things that are going to take you forward. And that same way, my way of thinking is the more you pursue information, the more you pursue the light, you will become God.
Yeah,
and to your point, time is the only thing that stands
time's the
in
only
our
thing
way.
that separates it. And then
Time runs out, we're out.
Exactly. And then when you're talking about why is there always a constant battle between light and dark? If you look at it even more abstract, what is that?
Yeah.
It's a battle between order and disorder. Darkness is disorder. Light is order, in a way.
So the more information, the less problems you have. The more from dark to light you go, the more you have things figured out.
And the more light you have, the less scared you are either, right? So imagine you're in a dark room. You're in a dark room and you can't see what's beyond you. You're just terrified. That the things that scare us in life are the things that are the unknown, the things that are the dark and the void. Those things scare us. But as soon as you have a flashlight and you point at it and you see there's nothing there.
There's nothing in the closet. There's no monster in the closet, etc.
And then you feel a sort of ease and a relaxation. And that's knowledge. The more knowledge you have. So like stuff that we talk about, nationalism and globalism, the more knowledge you have to go towards globalism. You know what I mean?
What if some people's fear? Never mind.
Or like even like you can only have so much light. You can only have so much information. When you think about entropy, you have so much order. You have so much complex information. You know everything there is to know. There's only one place to go, and that's back to zero. And that's back to disorder, back to darkness, start all over. Jesus. You know what I mean? Collapse, the end of everything.
You point the flashlight at the closet. You point the flashlight at the closet. Turns out you're in the closet.
Wait, what? I don't get it. But yeah, I mean, once you know everything, you can only die, and start over and start that whole process again.
Once you know everything, it's like that game Journey. You went through all this hurdle of like fighting for existence itself, and once you make it, you pass all the tests. You pass everything you could probably that was thrown in your way through life and challenges, and then you come through this thing, and boom, there's more to it than you can ever imagine, and that's God mode. Yeah. Now you're just in complete bliss, and then you're just welcomed by a people of like I can't even put it in words.
No, absolutely. And then even that bliss, take that infinite fold, and there's so much bliss that there's no more bliss there's no more bliss for you to have. Yeah. So there's only one way to go, entropy, and now start all over. Yeah.
I feel like
and begin that journey towards it again.
Because in order to appreciate anything, it has to end. If it doesn't end, then why appreciate it?
You gotta start back from nothing again.
So when you become God himself is like how the great journey game is. It kicks you back out and makes you start all over again.
That's the only reason time is so precious. And I feel like if you guys keep going back and forth, you guys are progressing, you guys are gonna turn to God like in this podcast.
Let's go.
And this is why entropy is...
Let's go.
So now we realize entropy is not that bad after all.
So Trump is good.
You got to understand entropy. He's not too bad.
Is Trump entropy?
Except entropy.
But
except Trump, he's bad.
A lot of innocent people will suffer from entropy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is a greater cause that we all are somehow in this cycle. And the samsara is the most beautiful thing that's ever written down. It's just a circle of life and death, and it's just and maybe that's what life in the universe is. This is going to be creation and non-creation. Creation and it just starts a circle.
So what's longer on that circle? Because right now I see like a white line, which is light, and then the black line. Is it 50-50, or is it light is just a little segment and then it's more?
The problem with light is it requires energy, right? Light always needs some sort of thing to burn in order to exist. And if God is light, he himself is dying every day because the energy is running out.
So then it's a gradient, like you said. There's only one point of it which is complete light, and then there's only one point where it's complete
dark.
black.
Yeah, and he's
so
fading.
It's just a transition.
Yeah, we are trying to get to God mode, and God is trying to stay alive as well. And he needs, like, if you look at a sun, that's the best way to understand light. Sun or even a light bulb.
Yeah, right.
You know, like, because sun itself has resources. It has helium and it has hydrogen, and it's colliding those things to create photons that shoot off as lights. But once it's used up all his resources, it no longer can create light. It gets weaker and weaker and weaker, and it starts collapsing on itself, and then it blows itself, and it goes to oblivious. It's gone. It's the same thing with any your flashlight. You turn it on, it'll stay on. It's not gonna stay on forever. It needs an energy to keep it on. It's gonna sooner or later just turn off. That's the problem with light. So like that is maybe Samsara, where something turns into light and now just trying to fight the darkness and stay alive. And when the craziest thing is the universe mathematically has X amount of energy. Once you used all of it, it's gone. Because to even create energy, you need energy. So you're taking energy from somewhere else and creating more energy, but you're just buying yourself time, but eventually it's gonna
there has to be energy that's transferred. Energy gets transferred.
You can't make energy. You
can't destroy it either.
That is true. So I think what the answer is that we need to. The answer is that we need to, at the end of it all, we need to transfer to another dimension where time doesn't exist.
But that would be
kind of like Doctor Strange.
But that would be
then
all
you can
together.
Exist forever. There's no more time. I'm thinking,
but that has to be within the one universe. Even if you have 12 dimensions,
time to go to another universe, bro. This universe is dying. We got to find a universe that doesn't have this law of death. I don't know. That would be nice. Or it could suck. There might be worse issues.
But
maybe we get to that dimension and we realize that, damn, we need time. We want to die. We don't want this to last forever.
All dimensions exist in some sort of box. No?
Some sort of box, yeah, but it could be that once
whatever that main box is, if that goes away, all dimensions go away.
But there could be dimensions that we can perceive. Well, of course, there are dimensions we don't perceive, right? But it could be like this idea where time doesn't exist. There could be a dimension where time doesn't exist. So then if time doesn't exist, do things begin? Do things end? But wait, can things even exist in that dimension then?
So if they exist forever.
Or does nothing exist because there's no time? How does that work? I don't know.
Or if you do exist in that time, you exist forever.
Either you exist forever or you don't exist ever. That's one or the other.
So that's the fundamental thing of life itself. It either always has existed, not life, but the universe. And it always, or God, it always has existed, or didn't exist, and it became to a point of just someone snapped a finger and everything just comes to be.
Yeah.
And that is just most like that's the thing that I think about the most. I just try to picture a moment where there's completely nothing. And out of nowhere, someone just blows a fart. Or blows a fart.
What the hell?
Well, imagine someone like, what's his name? Like the Family Guy has the funniest joke. Someone just blows leaks of gas out, and it creates a whole universe.
And from that's the moment where 101 matter particles came to be against 100 antimatter.
Yeah.
And that one, because that's what it is, right? Forever and ever and ever, there were 100 antimatter particles and 100 matter particles, and they would constantly destroy each other until there was this one freak accident.
You know where God is?
There was one more matter particle than antimatter, and through that, we're here today.
You know where I see God? I see a multiverse theory being true, that there's multiple universes, and then I see God in the middle.
And you're in all of them, and you're God. What the fuck? I thought we all agreed that we're God, no?
Sorry, yeah, sure.
I thought we were all on that bandwagon.
No, I agree.
You're a God, you're a God, you're a God. We're all God.
But
you get a God. You get a God.
What I was just saying is, like, what's a mindfuck right now is thinking about that whole...
Are we each other's God?
Probably. But the whole...
I'm a worshiper, Lee.
Most likely.
The energy concept, the fact that you're talking, the fact that I'm talking, I'm consuming X amount of energy that's available in the universe. I'm consuming that, and I'm translating into this energy, which is audio, right? But it's just energy transferring to another. But every time it transfers, it depletes itself, like little by little by little by little by little by little, and eventually it all fades away, and the whole universe is gonna go away because it's consumed every energy there was possible.
Is that where it's just gonna come swap back together,
or just gonna just fade out?
The hell?
Because
so
think
it just
about it.
Stops existing. Like,
because think about it, stars.
It's like a computer that just shuts off. You just pull the plug like that, or does it come to
slowly,
an ending?
It just gets it slows down and cools off. Like it gets colder and colder. Like I don't know how to
And things
explain it,
start
but
freezing. Yeah, because heat is energy, right? That's heat.
yeah, or if you look at suns, everything's just gonna start turning off because in order for the sun to
The
exist,
lights just go
it
out.
needs to create this fusion within itself, and that fusion are just other particles, and the other particles require this X amount of other energy, and those other it's just a combination of a transaction changes of energy over energy over
So
energy.
over time, the
And-
whole universe, the suns just start. It's just
Yeah,
lights
let's just
going
make it a small number, right? Because bigger numbers are really hard to understand. Let's just say if the universe has 100 energy,
out. Okay.
and by us talking, we use it and we divide it by 2, divide it by 2, divide it by 2. What are you putting
So we
up?
should stop talking.
Go ahead, I was on. Read it.
Oh, I said in physics, the law of conservation of energy states that the total energy of an isolated system cannot change. It's said to be conserved over time. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but can change form. For instance, chemical energy can be converted to kinetic energy.
So that completely falls flat then. That we're using up energy because you can't destroy it. It's just being converted. So can you convert it into an energy that's
I
not
always
usable?
is that what I'm saying? Is that wrong then? Because I
Yep.
always felt that.
That's wrong. It has to be, right?
But I think the form of energy can change. So if you just change that little thing, then you can be right.
I thought I read it differently somewhere. I gotta pursue that again.
So yeah, guys.
Fuck.
Man,
Damn, that sounded cool. Wow, it sounded cool.
God damn it, guys. Keep talking. I had a point to make and I forgot.
No, because
It's not valid anymore.
because it kind of goes to entropy. Like if you shift.
Oh,
So
hold on.
the way that energy is conserved changes. So like it can change in forms and how it's used.
So
So hold on. I really like this because it goes along with what I think is the idea that energy doesn't get destroyed, it doesn't create it. So it's always there, but it's getting transformed. So we're talking about it in a way that the universe, there will be a point where the universe will just become silent, right?
Yeah.
And we talk about it that there will be a point. But I think that's probably happened an infinite amount of times, and it just happens and doesn't
cycle.
happen. And of course, you're never going to be there to be like, oh, we're in this point in time where the universe is silent. We're always going to be in a point in time where the universe is alive, right? And we're able to have these conversations. So I think that kind of like the Big Bounce theory, that forever the universe has been existing and not existing. The energy depletes and it goes silent.
You can't deplete though.
No, what I mean is that it's in some kind of conversion rate where we cannot have these conversations because you need the energy to be in a certain form so we can talk. You know,
there's a more usable form of
yes,
energy.
a
It's kind of
usable
like
form of it.
you can eat food that'll give you energy, but then you
Yes,
crap it out
Yes,
and that's not
so-
usable.
yes.
yeah,
So
exactly. It's a different form. Yeah.
there's different forms. So there's a form of energy which can be ordered. You know,
Right,
with
and
entropy.
I think that's what it
and-
was.
Yeah, so it can be ordered and it can be made into a structure where life can form and me and you can have
Yeah,
these
once you get-
conversations.
And then there's radical energy where it's just fucking like,
And there's
pop,
other
pop,
forms
pop.
of energy with disorder, with entropy, where nothing can exist. Everything is disordered. Nothing is together. Nothing is clumped together.
Beautiful. You're back
So-
on, Ali. Your theory still exists. Continue.
It totally, that theory totally exists. But the idea is that
It doesn't.
that is happening has happened an infinite amount of times.
Yeah.
Existence and non-existence is just a part of existence.
Samsara.
I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah, it's mindfuck, man.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
life is a mindfuck.
Life.
It's a cycle. Keeps
And
fucking
I
you.
think I do want to say I've reached entropy. I need energy, as in food.
Yeah, let's
I'm
get
depleted.
grab a meal.
I transfer all my energy through a podcast.
I was gonna say I'm changing form.
What's crazy is I'm
Turning to shit.
Now I'm going dead.
You know what's even a mindfuck right
pass
now?
out.
The fact I'm looking at the laptop and I'm seeing like the recording of your voice. That's a transfer of your energy through a computer that has been stored in my hard drive.
Incredible.
Isn't that insane?
Wow.
It is.
And then we're gonna share it with the world and the internet, and
That
they're gonna
is.
download it on their phones
And then they should share it, and then they should like it.
and they
So
share it
their
with other
friends-
people.
Oh, like our
Family.
Facebook page, guys.
Please, guys, please do it.
Please.
For the love of God.
Or whatever you believe in.
For the love of entropy.
Probably lost all listeners because of the God topic.
Entropy is God.
I don't know, man. Everyone should think for themselves and
At least think. At least give it a shot. Just give it a shot, man.
Just try thinking, period.
Just like think for yourself. Just give it a shot.
Or you don't just have to think for yourself though. You got to think for other people too.
Yeah, we're all connected.
No, I mean like think yourself. Don't let others think for you.
You know, that gives me another mindfuck. What was the first thought that
easy.
ever came to be? Like the first thought anyone ever had?
I'm hungry.
No, the first thought has
Probably is I'm
Very
hungry or
likely.
I want to fuck.
no. The first thought was what
Wait,
the fuck. The first thought was a what the fuck moment. The first moment was a what
What
the
am I
fuck
doing
moment.
here?
Yeah, dude,
I
you come
think-
out as a baby. Like,
I think
what
that's
the
a
fuck?
good point. I think the first thought was I'm hungry, and then I want to fuck.
I want to reproduce.
It was right after one
Are
another.
babies hungry the second they come out?
I just ate. Now I want to fuck.
Exactly. So you're the first being. You're hungry. You eat something so you can stay alive for like few
Just
minutes,
reproducing.
and then you need to reproduce.
That's
You're
a
like,
great-
all right, I want to fuck.
That's a great business idea where you can fuck and eat at the same place.
Fuck.
Get all your needs, one stop shop.
Let's end this right here with this
All right,
moment.
sorry.
Hey, make sure you cut that part out.
Taco fuck.
Taco Bell.
Oh man, that's funny.
I ruined it. I'm sorry.
But it was fun as always.
All right, guys.
Thank you for listening to us as always. Like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube. We're coming up with new content. We've been saying we're gonna post it, but it's about to be posted pretty damn soon.
Believe in us.
Believe in it.
Please.
There's light at the end of the tunnel. That's what we learned. We just gotta work for it and progress towards it. And we all are one. Right, Z?
Beautiful. I love it. Nothing to add. Peace out, guys.
I love it. I love you.
Okay.
Life is life.
Life is life.
Life
love
is
you
Life
guys.
is life. Life is life.
The world is cool.
That should be our outro.